Chapter 1209. Jiang Taichu, from what you're saying, it seems like you're still planning to settle the score? Xianku didn't realize the tragic fate that was about to befall him. He felt that Lotus was getting stronger and stronger. His face was full of mockery as if he was looking at an ant. Oh. Why wait until after autumn? I want to settle the score on the spot. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of mockery as he said lightly. Kong Taichu, when it comes to bluffing, no one in the entire Westland is convinced by you. Seeing that Jiang Tian was calm, Xianku laughed and said mockingly, My master is here. Even my master is here. His foot has already descended from the sky. Do you think you can block it? You don't really think that you can stop me, do you? Your arrogance and ignorance are rare in this world. He didn't look at Jiang Tian anymore. After all, Jiang Tian was going to die. Instead, he put his palms together and looked at the figure of Lord Lotus in the sky with reverence. He was so excited that tears rolled down his cheeks. Disciple welcomes Lord Lotus and praises the immeasurable light Buddha of the pure lotus to return to the Westland and clean up the world. Bang! The next moment, the foot that broke through the clouds and split the sky, creating flames in the air. However, the foot landed heavily on Xianku's head. Lian Sheng's kick made Xianku fall from thousands of meters in the air all the way to the Golden Peak. Master, I stepped on the wrong foot. One side of Xianku's face was broken. Blood and countless canine teeth flew out. The muscles on his face rippled like water. He was completely dumbfounded. He only had time to say that one sentence. The next moment, with a bang, his head broke through the roof and beams of a hall. The gigantic foot wearing straw sandals stomped on his head, crushing the roof of the hall, the beams, the tables, the stone bricks, the runes, and countless rocks. Clang, clang, clang. The foot stomped all the way down, directly crushing half of the golden roof 1,000 meters high before it stopped. Huge rocks were sent flying in all directions. Colorful mushroom clouds bloomed one after another like fireworks. It was a scene of chaos, magnificent and moving. When the smoke and dust dispersed, everyone was shocked to see that amidst the rubble, Xianku was lying there like a bloody gourd. His bones and tendons were broken, and his body was twitching. Blood was oozing out of his mouth. Half of his head had exploded. Master, I'm Xiaoku, your most beloved Xiaoku. You must have mistaken me for someone else. Xianku struggled to raise his head. As he spoke, he spat out blood and lung pieces. With tears in his eyes, he said, That is Kong Taichu. Why didn't you kill him? Lian Sheng was expressionless like a stone Buddha, but he still moved. He lifted his leg and crushed Yi Futian's knee. Aha, master. Why did you step on me? Say something. Xianku howled miserably. It was mournful to the extreme, causing one's hair to stand on end. There was dead silence. The atmosphere was extremely strange. Everyone looked at each other, dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Why isn't he talking? Why did he step on you? Jiang Tian sneered. Because Lian Sheng has been defeated by me. The high and mighty old Rulai in your hearts is just my dog. If I don't open my mouth and don't let him speak, he won't dare to speak. In fact, this was indeed the case. When Jiang Tian arrived at the Golden Peak, he had already used his divine consciousness to stop Lian Sheng from communicating with Xianku and the others. Lian Sheng knew that Jiang Tian was luring the snake out of its hole. He wanted those with evil intentions to jump out and deal with them together. But everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Nonsense. How is this possible? Kong Taichu, do you think you can fool us? We won't believe you at all. Lian Sheng Rulai is already here, and you still dare to talk nonsense and provoke him. You are courting death. Many people screamed. Some of the beautiful men even sounded like they were crying. In fact, although they found it hard to believe, they had already believed most of it in their hearts. If Lian Sheng hadn't submitted to Jiang Tian, why would he attack Xianku? If Lian Sheng had not been defeated by Jiang Tian, with his ruthless, merciless, domineering personality, how could he have allowed Jiang Tian to be so disrespectful and let him do as he pleased? But they didn't want to believe it or accept it. This was because Jiang Tian had already let them go and made peace with them. Especially Xiao Lingyu and Mei Jiaonan, Jiang Tian placed them in an important position. If they followed Jiang Tian, they would have a bright future. They would be able to reach the highest level and obtain endless blessings. They could even follow Jiang Tian to break the dimensional barrier, break the cage of heaven and earth, break out of the solar system and enter the central galaxy. But because of a single mistake, everything had become a bubble in a dream. They were going to face a disaster. They just needed to hold on for another 2 hours. No, an hour. Old Rulai, I am the great virtuous guardian. The great virtuous guardian was unwilling to give up. He rose into the air and knelt down at Lian Xing's feet. He put his palms together and bowed respectfully. Then he pointed at Jiang Tian and said fiercely, "This is Kang Techu. He killed the great Buddha, destroyed the demigods and semi-devils, damaged the dignity of Buddhism, and caused chaos in the world. Please make a move to kill this fiend and establish eternal peace for West Earth." Lian Xing didn't say anything and turned a deaf ear. Jiang Tian suddenly smiled and said, "Lian Xing, do you dare to kill me? You can speak now." "Master, I don't dare. I'm just a loyal dog of the Taichu world venerable. I'll bite whoever you ask me to." Lian Xing finally spoke. He bent his knees and knelt among the rocks, kowtowing respectfully to Jiang Tian. His actions were natural and his eyes were sincere, as if he was looking at a god. At that moment, there was dead silence. The countless strong practitioners on the Golden Peak were all dumbfounded. They couldn't make a single sound. Within a radius of 100 miles, the countless eminent monks and strong practitioners on Mount Thunderclap were all in disbelief as they looked at the shocking scene in a daze. They looked at the kneeling old Rulai and the white-robed youth with black hair and black eyes standing proudly in the sky with his hands behind his back. It was as if a true god had descended to the mortal world. "Master? I'm just a dog." The beautiful man's face, which was even more handsome than a girl's, was filled with bitterness. The corners of his mouth twitched nervously, and his mind was blank. Such an ending was too hard to accept. They had betrayed Jiang Tian because they thought that Jiang Tian had been killed or intimidated by old Rulai. Previously, they had thought that old Rulai could crush Jiang Tian, so they could look down on Jiang Tian. They thought that Jiang Tian was at the end of his road, so they mocked and criticized Jiang Tian, frantically showing their loyalty to old Rulai. However, they had never expected old Rulai to be Jiang Tian's servant. To put it bluntly, he was just a dog. At that moment, when they thought about their previous actions, they felt that it was laughable and stupid, like clowns. In fact, not only the beautiful man, almost everyone found it hard to accept. He actually turned the tables? Even Huoyan, Fan Luomei, and the rest, who were staunch supporters of Jiang Tian, felt like they were dreaming. They looked at everything in disbelief. For example, Fan Luomei supported Jiang Tian not because she thought that Jiang Tian would win, but because she had no other choice. Originally, the longevity sect's rules were against Buddhism, and they were a thorn in their side. Even if they surrendered, they would be destroyed sooner or later, so they might as well take a gamble. How did this happen? As for Lung Jianfeng of Sword Palace, he was so frightened that his knees went soft, and he knelt on the ground. "Senior brother, your sect will be wiped out." Zhang Wen, who was beside him, was extremely shocked. The aura in his sea of qi became unstable, and he actually convulsed and fell to the ground. His eyes rolled back and he foamed at the mouth. Green bile seeped out of his mouth. He was actually scared out of his wits. They had already seen Jiang Tian's ferocity. He had killed over 30 Golden Core realm cultivators in Maolin City, slaughtered millions of soldiers, and destroyed Jinyu country. The fire burned for 10 days and 10 nights before stopping. What did they have that was worth Jiang Tian giving them a way out? They were definitely going to die. I just need to hold on for a little longer, just a little longer." Xiao Lingyu's mind buzzed, and he had a miserable smile on his face. Tears streamed down his face, and his body was on the verge of collapsing. He couldn't even stand properly. The one who regretted it the most was probably Xiao Lingyu. He had bitterly held on for a long time, and even suffered serious injuries. However, he betrayed Jiang Tian at the last moment. However, this betrayal would erase all his previous efforts. At this moment, A strong sense of regret surged in his heart. Even the 3 rivers and 5 seas wouldn't be able to wash it away. Master, what exactly is going on? Why did it turn out like this? How can he be your opponent? Xianxia was also stunned. He struggled and shouted. He saw old Rulai Lotus as a god, but he didn't expect his master to lower his head to a Yen Huang tribesman, an ant from Earth. He had painstakingly planned for this operation for a month. Everything was ready, and victory was in sight. But in the end, this was the outcome. Quang. Old Rulai Lotus didn't say anything and stomped down again. Blood splattered, and his chest was pierced through. Xiaolingyu, in your eyes, old Rulai Lotus is a god, high and mighty. But what about the truth? Fan Luomei had just been humiliated by the other party, and she was extremely depressed. Now, she couldn't help but feel elated. Of course, she would return it 100-fold. So, one careless move, and the whole game is lost. Xiaolingyu was in a daze. He could only look up at the sky and let out a long sigh. He couldn't say a single word of rebuttal. You said I would regret it. But what about the truth? Fan Luomei's face was full of mockery as she looked at him coldly. Xiaolingyu's face was pale like a corpse that had been dead for 3 days, but he didn't say a word. Because it was too late to say anything. Taichu World Senior, please give me a chance. I'm willing to be your slave. As for the beautiful man, he had already knelt on the ground with tears flowing down his face. He kowtowed and begged pitifully. We were wrong. Taichu World Senior, please treat us as a fart and let us go. This included Lung Jianfeng and the other strong people who had just betrayed Jiang Tian. I seem to have given you more than one chance. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery. His cold voice sent chills down everyone's spine, and they all shivered. Chapter 12:10. Jiang Tian's face was expressionless as he said, neither too fast nor too slow. Back then, you attacked Maolin City and humiliated me. You should have died 100 times to atone for that. However, I, Kong Teichu, have always been merciful and I'm used to thinking from your point of view. I thought it was just a battle of interests and not a selfless vengeance. You begged for mercy and your head was bleeding, so I let you go. Just now, I asked you to think carefully and gave you a few chances. If you came to your senses, I would have let bygones be bygones. But you're very determined. You're determined to be my enemy. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The beautiful man knelt there and his teeth clattered like a machine gun. From the beginning to the end, I wanted to shake hands and make peace with you. I wanted to be close comrades with you. We once fought side by side, and our friendship lasted for a long time. We were true friends. You're also good at singing and dancing. I admire you even more. Why did you have to go to this extent? It really makes this Zhang's heart ache. Jiang Tian looked up at the sky and sighed, his face filled with sorrow. Then he raised his hand and slapped down, not showing any mercy. Suddenly, a red true fire of the red sparrow burned the beautiful man into ashes, and even his divine soul was annihilated. The fire is strong and he died peacefully. Jiang Tian raised his hand and took the golden core from the ashes. He looked at Xiaolingyu calmly and said with a smile, "Don't worry, Brother Lingyu. I'll also make the fire burn brighter. It won't hurt at all. After all, you and I are friends." Xiaolingyu knew he couldn't escape death. He gritted his teeth and threatened Jiang Tian at the last moment. "My friend, I know you'll go back to Earth. If you kill me, who will help you in this world? Almost all the sects and orthodoxies betrayed you this time. Are you going to kill them all? If you kill all of them, do you think the Fire Worship sect and the Longevity sect will be able to suppress West Earth and protect Earth if the ruins of immortality invades?" At this moment, his hair was disheveled and his entire body was drenched in blood. He had completely lost his usual elegance and gloominess. Instead, he was roaring hysterically, and he was as savage and terrifying as a devil. "At the very least, can you kill all of us in one go? I have a lot of illegitimate children that no one knows about. You or anyone else will never be able to find them. As long as you don't kill them all, they will gradually grow up and learn the Supreme Tao. One day, their mother will tell them that their father was killed by you, Kong Teichu. They will enter Earth. Can your parents, wife, and children stop them? What he said was true. In fact, apart from the Changshan sect, there were many portals in this world that led to Earth. However, back then, only the Changshan sect coveted Earth, so many teleportation portals were not activated. But if Jiang Tian became enemies with them, many people would be able to invade Earth and take revenge. Jiang Tian was indeed powerful, but Jiang Tian's family and the Tianqing school were still incomparable to the overlords of West Earth. Xiao Lingyu's words were very provocative, and also very reasonable. As soon as these words were spoken, many people immediately glared at Jiang Tian with hatred, revealing resentment and unyielding expressions. "Ha, do I need you to protect West Earth? Do you think I don't have anyone here?" Jiang Tian snickered. Swish, swish, swish. For people fell from the sky. Xiao Lingyu and the others looked up. One of them was Mao Hongdai, but they didn't know the other three. However, a 1,000-Zhanglong flood dragon, a humongous Kuan, and a yellow spring water that blotted out the sky exploded in the sky. The three Dharmalaksana were all magnificent and powerful. They were not inferior to Lotus Tathagata at all. The three ferocious auras combined into one and crushed down like 10,000 mountains. Boom! A huge chunk of the towering and indestructible Arhat mountain collapsed, and the entire Mount Lain within a radius of 100 miles was trembling violently, trembling uneasily. Nascent soul formation. 3 nascent soul cultivators. Xiao Lingyu was forced to kneel on the ground by this pressure, and he couldn't get up no matter how hard he tried. His face was trembling, and his eyes were filled with astonishment and shock. The dragon race? The Kuanping race? Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Ancestral Patriarch Zhenlong, Ancestral Patriarch Mingyi and Ancestral Patriarch Takong greet you, Master. Rumble. The 3 nascent soul cultivators landed on the golden peak like meteorites. They knelt on one knee and raised their fists above their heads to greet Jiang Tian. Rumble. The mountain-protecting grand formation instantly exploded. The light dimmed, and the mountain rocks within a radius of 3 to 4 miles exploded. Palaces collapsed, and rubble flew everywhere. With the place where they landed as the center, 3 huge pits appeared. The ground turned into rolling lava, rippling like water. The entire golden summit was in a mess. The 3 nascent soul cultivators have submitted to him. 3 nascent soul cultivators. Feeling the enormous pressure, everyone's mind trembled, like withered leaves in the wind, shivering. Although nascent soul cultivators were only at the transition stage from the golden core level to the nascent soul level, they were still able to crush those at the golden core level. Who would be able to withstand such power? Get up. Jiang Tian nodded. The 3 of them rose and stood behind Jiang Tian. They didn't say a word and looked down at the world like 3 peerless fiend gods. Xiao Lingyu, do you know how many people want to submit to me? Jiang Tian stood in the air and said with a mocking face, "Do you know that if I had shown mercy, Buddha Datong would have kowtowed to me and acknowledged me as his master? However, he's only been a nascent soul cultivator for 100 years and he's extremely hypocritical. I don't want to accept him. Xiao Lingyu, do you still think I have to use you? Do you still think you're qualified to bargain with me? No, you've never been qualified to do so. I didn't kill you not because you're useful, but because I'm too merciful. I've lost. I've completely lost." Xiao Lingyu, who was dumbfounded, murmured to himself in a daze. After hearing Jiang Tian's question, he finally reacted as if he had been struck by lightning. He almost collapsed on the ground, and with a bitter and sad smile, he said, "That's right. I admit defeat. I didn't expect you, Kong Teichu, to be so powerful and have such a terrifying trump card. I, Xiao Lingyu, can only blame myself for being blind." A nascent soul cultivator was comparable to at least 100 golden core cultivators. In other words, any one of them was as powerful as dozens of Xiao Lingyu. Including Lian Sheng, Jiang Tian had 4 nascent soul cultivators guarding him. Why would he need him? Besides, why would Jiang Tian use someone like Xiao Lingyu, who didn't have a firm will and betrayed the enemy? For his comrades, for the sake of his promise, Jiang Tian could be fearless. At the same time, Jiang Tian also wanted people who were loyal and reliable. They were comrades in arms who could turn their backs to each other on the battlefield. As for Jiang Tian and Xiaoling Yu, there was no need to discuss whether their henchmen could invade Earth and avenge them. With the protection of 4 nascent soul cultivators, it was impossible for West Earth to invade Earth. It was like an ant trying to shake a tree. But you've reminded me. A glint of coldness flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. I'm not only going to kill you, but also your entire family. How dare you threaten me? I'm going to kill you. Before he finished, Jiang Tian tapped his forehead. The golden lake rippled, and an enormous underworld gate formed by devouring souls appeared behind it. No. Taichu Overlord, I'll take responsibility for what I did. Don't hurt the innocent. Xiaoling Yu screamed. The pain and regret in his heart couldn't be described with words. He finally understood that there were some people in the world who couldn't be provoked, offended, or shaken. His threat had led to the destruction of his entire family. If not, he could have at least left some of his descendants. But it was too late to say anything. He could only watch helplessly. He watched as the nether gate opened and countless tentacle-like black soul devourers shot into the sky from all directions, as if there was no end to them. After that, every soul devourer brought over thousands of souls that were screaming miserably, struggling helplessly, and crying in terror. Regardless of whether it was the elderly, the middle-aged elites, or even the youngsters, or the babbling children, all of Xiaoling Yu's 3 generations were devoured by the nether gate. Not a single one was spared. The entire place was dead silent. Cold sweat rolled down their foreheads like a waterfall and their hearts trembled. Ruthless. Too ruthless. They were all ruthless people whose hands were stained with blood. Which one of them hadn't killed hundreds of people? Some of them had even destroyed countries and cities. But it was the first time they had seen someone as ruthless and merciless as Jiang Tian. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoling Yu's roots were completely uprooted from this continent. Not a single strand of him was left behind, eliminating all future troubles. Many of them weren't afraid of death, but it didn't mean that they weren't afraid of their families being threatened. Jiang Tian's behavior made them shiver in fear. I'll take responsibility for my own actions? What right do you have to say that? Jiang Tian looked at Xiaoling Yu and sneered. How could you forget to take responsibility for your own actions when you attacked my parents, wife, and children? They wouldn't have died, especially those children. They were indeed innocent. But you told me that they would grow up and take revenge. I had to kill them. You asked for it. Puff. Xiaoling Yu was so angry that his eyes were about to burst. Tears rolled down his cheeks and blood spurted out of his mouth uncontrollably. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. It was a fate worse than death. At this moment, the regret in his heart couldn't be washed away even with all the water in the world. If he was given another chance, he would never betray Jiang Tian, would never stand on Xian Ku's side and become Jiang Tian's enemy, even if he had to be hacked into thousands of pieces and his bones burned into ashes. Yes, the devil. To be able to curse and kill people hundreds and thousands of miles away, a single curse could wipe out all your blood relatives, trace it back to the source, and exterminate your entire clan. Whether it was the magic arts or the cruel nature, they were simply the most terrifying demons in hell. Kill me. I beg you, Taichu Overlord, kill me. Give me death. Xiaoling Yu knelt on the ground with his head buried in the rocks. His body twitched and spasmed like an old dog that had been beaten with a stick. Everyone felt a chill down their spines and shivered. Xiaoling Yu was the sect master of a major sect, a veteran golden core cultivator. Such a talented and powerful figure had been completely destroyed by Kong Taichu. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die. He only wanted death to be free. Chapter 12:11. Like I said, the fire will burn brightly and you will die peacefully. Jiang Tian smiled lazily and flicked his finger. Suddenly, the Suzuka True Fire swept out and turned Xiaoling Yu's body and divine soul into ashes. The golden core was still taken away by Jiang Tian. After killing Xiaoling Yu, Jiang Tian looked at Xian Ku and said with a smile, "Black Python demonic cultivator, you think your bloodline is powerful, But do you know that the people of Wuxia, especially the Lingnan generation, love snake soup the most? Xianxia was so scared that he couldn't stop shaking. He was scared out of his wits. He said with a flattering face, "Little python, I am willing to be your pet. Taichu World Venerable, please give me a chance." "Are you kidding me?" Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon sneered. "I have the blood of a real dragon, but I'm not qualified to be your pet." "That's right. I have the blood of the Kuan Peng and I'm proficient in the space secret arts. I don't dare to ask for your favor. I just want to work hard under your command." "A cute pet. You're really good at flattering yourself." Ancestral Patriarch Takong also mocked. In fact, Ancestral Patriarch Takong had the blood of the Kuan Peng, and he was older than Guang Kuan. The Kuan Peng could control the power of space, but Ancestral Patriarch Takong could do it. That was why he was called Ancestral Patriarch Takong. "Ah, I regret it so much." Xianxia's face turned pale as he screamed. His body trembled and tears flowed down his face. Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Liansheng, Xianxia is your disciple and the Golden Rock Temple is your home ground. You can deal with these bald donkeys as you see fit." "Yes, master." Ignoring Xianxia's pleading eyes, Liansheng's eyes were cold and emotionless. He raised his hand and slapped Xianxia to death. He had always been a decisive and bloodthirsty person. He would kill even his disciples without hesitation. Then, amid the mournful wailing and begging for mercy, Liansheng slapped the Vedanta protector and many senior members of the Golden Rock Temple who betrayed Jiang Tian into meat pies. "Lung Jianfeng, you jumped quite high just now. It's time to settle the score. I'll cripple your cultivation and break your legs." "Qixia Monarch, you were quite loud just now. How dare you disrespect the Honorable Tai Chu? Come, let's have a chat." Fan Luomei, Hui Yan, and the others were revived. They attacked together, killing Lung Jianfeng and the other small fries who dared to resist Jiang Tian. At this moment, the entire Golden Rock Temple collapsed and the Buddha statues were stained with blood. At this moment, countless corpses were piled up within hundreds of miles of Thunder Mountain. At this moment, countless people prostrated themselves at Jiang Tian's feet, trembling in fear. Only Jiang Tian stood proudly in the void, looking down at the world with cold eyes like an ancient god. The survivors were all terrified, as if they had lost their parents. A thought came to their minds. This time, Jiang Taichu returned with 4 nascent soul realm old monsters and killed 3 great orthodoxies. Blood dyed the land in 100 miles. I'm afraid he'll always be the one calling the shots in West Earth. After this battle, Jiang Tian had completely suppressed West Earth. At least, no one would dare to resist him for a few hundred years. Soon, the corpses and blood in the Golden Rock Temple were washed clean. Everyone greeted each other and sat down. Jiang Tian glanced at everyone and said, "I'm going to return to Earth soon, so I need to make some arrangements." Li Wuji heaved a sigh of relief. He still felt that the outside world was too dangerous. Earth was more comfortable. Yi Karen's martial demoness also revealed a look of joy. Taking down West Earth could be said to have been surrounded by danger, so they could finally relax. "Are the 4 nascent soul cultivators willing to go to Earth with me? The Earth realm is very desolate, and its spirit chi is scarce." Jiang Tian asked. "Of course, we will follow you to the end, my lord, without hesitation." Liansheng and the other 3 nodded without hesitation. Li Wuji was envious and shocked. His heart skipped a beat. Tianqing School suddenly had 4 more nascent soul cultivators. The Kunlun sect would never be able to catch up in the future. He sighed in his heart. "Sigh, looks like I should give up on that plan." Becoming enemies with Kong Taichu was courting death. Jiang Tian nodded, then looked at Hui Yan and said with a smile, "By the way, I want 30% of the Red Lotus Earth Fire in your sect to build a deity body for my disciple, Ling Long." "Of course. You can take all of it." Hui Yan didn't hesitate and agreed. The leaf fire arcane technique that Jiang Tian gave him absorbed the cosmic fire and true sun fire scattered in space. It could be improved without the power of earth fire, so he was naturally willing to do this favor. "Master wants to build a deity body for me?" Tang Linglong was stunned and felt a surge of warmth in her heart. Is it at the same level as Master's stainless phoenix deity body? Let's go to the fire worship sect. Jiang Tian chuckled. He did not comment and stood up. The stainless phoenix deity body was a deity body that was rare in 10,000 years. It was one of the 12 deity bodies that had the potential to become an immortal emperor. Few people could compare to it. The leaf fire deity body was one of the 5 elements deity bodies. Of course, it was not as powerful as the stainless phoenix deity body. However, the leaf fire deity body was ranked among the top 20 deity bodies. Even in the central galaxy deep in the universe, it was enough to look down on the heroes. Tang Linglong's root bone was not very high. However, Jiang Tian had recently discovered that she had a fire hidden spiritual root. Hidden spiritual roots were relatively weak and unstable. Its power and talent were sometimes unleashed and sometimes hidden. Jiang Tian had only discovered that she had a fiery temper and would explode at the slightest provocation, so he had given her the blazing bone sword on the Death Hill. However, Jiang Tian had not discovered her fire-hidden spiritual root at that time. It was only when she was fighting with Feng Ao Lan Dai and the beast python that her potential was raised to the extreme that Jiang Tian discovered a clue. Farewell, Supreme of the world. Many monks, bodhisattvas and vajras who were still alive heaved a sigh of relief as if they had been pardoned. The god of plagues was finally gone. Jiang Tian walked out and said with a faint smile, "By the way, you stay here. I'm going back to Earth soon. When I'm not around, you'll be the Supreme of the West Earth and the Golden Rock Temple's Tathagata." What? A woman is going to become the Supreme of the world and become a Buddha? Not only were the monks stunned, but even Fairy Luomei was in disbelief. "But can't I?" Jiang Tian asked with a smile. "Taichu Supreme of the world, there has never been a precedent of a woman becoming a Buddha or a Supreme of the world. This is against the rules. It doesn't make sense." A bodhisattva stepped out and shouted with dissatisfaction, "Great kindness, shut up. How dare you go against the Taichu Supreme of the world? Do you want me to kill you?" Tathagata Lotus shouted angrily. This bodhisattva called Great Kindness was a fanatical believer. He was straightforward and did not fear death. He was not afraid of threats at all. He said calmly, "Then kill me. I'm going to die to protect the rules of the Buddhist sect. What's there to be afraid of? Even if you kill me, my beliefs won't change." Lotus was about to attack when Jiang Tian stopped him. He looked at the Great Kindness Bodhisattva and asked, "You can talk about Buddhism with me. Then let me ask you, your Buddhist sect preaches that all beings are equal. Do women count as beings?" "Women count as beings." The Bodhisattva hesitated and said, "Since all beings are equal, then let me ask you, if men can become Buddhas, why can't women become Buddhas and Tathagata?" Jiang Tian said, "But..." The Bodhisattva stammered, not knowing how to answer. "Talk about Buddhism with me? Let me ask you again. Golden Rock Temple preaches that all beings are equal. Why do the bodhisattvas, eminent monks and vajra arhats in the temple all ride on demons and beasts?" Jiang Tian frowned and shouted. "This..." The bodhisattva's forehead was sweating and he was speechless. Since the Buddhist sect wants all beings to be equal and have the virtue of caring for life, then do demons and demons count as beings? Why do you claim to be righteous and kill demons and demons? Jiang Tian asked again. "This you're quibbling." The Great Kindness Bodhisattva gritted his teeth and shouted coldly, "Demons and demons eat humans and kill countless people. Of course we have to kill them. What about demons and demons that don't eat humans? Don't you still kill them as you wish? Why are there people who can put down their weapons and become Buddhas? How can the Buddhist sect protect them? No one can kill those so-called Buddhas who put down their weapons in the Buddhist sect." Jiang Tian laughed. Teeth. The Great Kindness Bodhisattva shuddered and the veins on his forehead throbbed. However, he could not say a single word. "I'll tell you why." Jiang Tianzong laughed and said, "That's because the Buddhist sect can win, defend and suppress. Therefore, whoever the Buddhist sect says is a Buddha is a Buddha. If you want to protect an evil person, that person will be your Buddha. Fiend demons do not eat humans and do not do evil. If you want to kill them, they will still be a fiend demon. If the Buddhist sect does not have martial strength, everyone can kill and bully you. Who would want to be your Buddha? At the end of the day, it's still about martial strength and strength. Whoever has the bigger fist has the right. Right now, my fist is bigger and I have the right. I don't care. In short, with me around, this woman can't be Tathagata or Buddha. This is against the rules. You're going against the flow. The Bodhisattva straightened his neck and said, to Jiang Tian flicked his finger and shattered his golden core. Then, he swept his gaze across everyone and asked indifferently, who do you agree with? We are willing to worship Fairy Luo Mei as the world supreme, as Tathagata, as a true Buddha. All the eminent monks of Golden Rock Monastery were so frightened that their legs trembled. Their faces were as pale as paper as they hurriedly kowtowed. Lotus congratulates fellow Taoist Luo Mei on becoming the first female Tathagata in West Earth. It's truly worthy of celebration. Even Lotus Tathagata bowed deeply with a fawning smile. Did you see that? Jiang Tian looked at the pale great kindness Bodhisattva whose dantian was shattered and bleeding profusely. Rules? Reason? I have the bigger fist, so I have the right. The words of I, Kong Te Chu, are the rules. I refuse to accept it. The Bodhisattva gritted his teeth with a venomous gaze. He wanted to say something. I don't care if you accept it or not. I'll kill you. Continue to refuse to accept it. Jiang Tian mercilessly slapped down with his palm. The vermilion bird's flames enveloped the Bodhisattva, and his head exploded. His soul was destroyed, turning into a puff of green smoke and completely disappearing. The fire burned brightly. He died peacefully. Jiang Tian's face was calm as water. He held Tang Linglong's waist and soared into the sky. Golden Rock Monastery's first female Tathagata is born. It's truly groundbreaking. Congratulations. Hua Yan also hurriedly turned into a stream of light and followed into the sky. He laughed maniacally, full of mischief. Chapter 12:12. West Earth was vast, spanning tens of thousands of miles. However, Jiang Tian and Hua Yan's movement techniques were too fast. They arrived at the fire worship sect in just a few hours. The entire scorching desert gave people a feeling of desolation, bleakness, and scorching heat. The 1,000 li of land was barren, and yellow sand rolled about. Black oil seeped out from the ground in this barren land. Rolling flames ignited, and black smoke rose in all directions. There were also some fire-type demon beasts roaming about. They were as strong as mountains, spitting flames as they ran across the desert. There were few cities and countries in this place, but the scale was huge. The effect of settlement was obvious. The city walls were majestic and tall, and the population was huge. Moreover, they were all rough and brave people who were good at fighting. Only then could they resist the demon beasts' attacks. Fenshan Valley was located in the depths of the scorched desert. It spanned tens of miles and was surrounded by barren mountains and stone walls. They were reddish-brown and looked like red clouds. This kind of stone was called the Rainbow Red Cloud Stone. The fire worship sect's disciples took advantage of the lack of resources and dug caves on the Red Crimson Cliff to cultivate and live. The caves were densely packed and it was a magnificent sight. Many of the disciples were above the Foundation establishment realm. It was no wonder that the fire worship sect was second only to the Golden Rock Temple in West Earth. In the middle, there were groups of huge flame-shaped pagodas. All the pagodas were red in color. The tallest one was 10,000 feet tall and the shortest one was 100 feet tall. They were carved and built in the shape of twisting flames. It was very unique. Surrounding the flaming pagodas were groups of palaces. The closer they were to the pagodas, the more exquisite and luxurious they were. This is the Red Lotus Hellfire Pagoda. It's hundreds of meters deep underground. Jiang Tian held Tang Linglong's waist and floated down. Hua Yan followed Jiang Tian and landed. He bowed and cupped his fists. With a flattering expression, he said respectfully, "The Red Lotus Hellfire is the foundation of the sect. It's the essence of the fire spirit. The lowest level outer sect and miscellaneous disciples can only cultivate on the surrounding stone walls. Inner sanctum disciples, on the other hand, can enter the closer group of palaces. Only elite disciples and personal disciples can enter the pagodas to cultivate. However, according to position, talent, and cultivation, the better the talent and the higher the position, the lower the level. But generally speaking, they are on the ground. The underground is the closest to the red lotus earth fire. Normally, only the sect's elders, hall masters, and sect leaders are allowed to enter. He made it sound simple, but Tang Linglong already understood how difficult it was to go underground and get close to the red lotus hellfire. Seeing Huo Yan's figure, the faces of countless disciples turned solemn. They all walked out of their caves and kowtowed. Greetings, Taichu World Venerate, Fairy Linglong, and Huo Yan sect leader. Now, Jiang Tian had already defeated the three Relay of Datong, Xianku, and Liansheng, and ascended to the position of revered one of the world. Who would dare to slight him in the slightest? Once the revered one of the world was angered, it would be a catastrophe. To this, Jiang Tian merely nodded and accepted their kowtows. In the past, for the sake of obtaining a position close to the earth fire, who knows how many great battles have erupted, and how many young talents have died. Huo Yan sighed and looked at Tang Linglong enviously. My talent is not bad, but it took me 200 years to cultivate to the early golden core stage and become an elder before I could enter the underground level of the pagoda. Miss Linglong is only in her 20s, but she can directly devour the red lotus hellfire. In the history of the fire worship sect, there has never been anyone like her. Tang Linglong did not say anything when she heard this. Her eyes were already red, and crystal-clear tears were flickering in her eyes. At this moment, she clenched her teeth and did not allow herself to cry. However, a warm current and sweetness surged in her heart. She had always been infatuated with Jiang Tian. However, she also understood that Jiang Tian only had feelings for her as a master and disciple. Moreover, their relationship was too good. She did not have the slightest chance at all. She even thought that if she dared to reveal even a little more, Jiang Tian might make up his mind and expel her from the sect. Therefore, she could only hide her feelings in the bottom of her heart. She did not dare to show the slightest bit of her feelings. Sometimes she felt very wronged. Men, even if they were just ordinary rich second-generation heirs, could have multiple wives and concubines. They could have countless mistresses. As long as the wife at home did not fall, the mistresses outside fluttered. For example, Jiang Tian was the ruler of the four realms. Even the leaders of big countries had to treat him with respect and respect. They could not wait to kowtow to him. Those top tycoons in the world were not even worthy of carrying Jiang Tian's shoes. It could be said that Jiang Tian had long surpassed the ordinary. However, Jiang Tian still did not get close to women. She even knew that her master's wife loved Jiang Tian very much. She even doted on him a little. She had never objected to Jiang Tian having a few more confidants. However, Jiang Tian seemed to be a neat freak. He never flirted or gave her any thoughts. How could she not feel wronged? Sometimes, she even felt that in Jiang Tian's eyes, she was worthless. She was not worthy of Jiang Tian's attention. But today, seeing Jiang Tian use endless red lotus earth fire to forge the ignis celestial body for her, she could not help but be moved. I'm afraid that in this life, I will never have the chance to be his woman. But it's not bad to be his favorite disciple. Thinking of this, Tang Linglong's heart was filled with sweetness and sadness. It was as if there was a sharp knife stirring, but also as if there was a warm current that gently comforted her. Linglong, I will teach you a method to forge the ignis celestial body. I will also teach you a method to control fire. Jiang Tian smiled and looked lovingly at Tang Linglong. His divine sense moved. Suddenly, two sets of cultivation methods appeared in Tang Linglong's mind out of thin air. Tang Linglong said in surprise, "Master, didn't you help me forge the ignis celestial body?" This leaf fire immortal body is only reliable if you refine it yourself. Jiang Tian said calmly. With my aptitude, how long will it take? Tang Linglong's heart skipped a beat. She had a bad feeling. The cultivation method I will teach you is an immortal emperor-level cultivation method. The cultivation speed will be very fast. Jiang Tian's eyes flickered. He patted Tang Linglong's shoulder and said, You have a hidden spiritual root, and it is a little heterogeneous. If you want to forge the ignis celestial body with the earth fire, generally speaking, it will take 30 years for you to achieve the small success and 60 years for you to achieve the great perfection of the gold core realm. I will definitely come to pick you up. 30 years for me to achieve the small success? The cultivation speed of an immortal emperor-level cultivation method is very fast. Tang Linglong lowered her head and laughed bitterly. Then she looked up with tears hanging from her eyes and said with a sad smile, "Master, when I see you again, I will already be a little old woman." Jiang Tian turned around and looked at the slowly setting sun. He said calmly, "That's right. Cultivation knows no time. In my previous life, I had been in seclusion for hundreds of years. Also, a cultivator's appearance is eternal. I achieved the small success in 30 years and I was still a cute little girl. Also, if your mind is strong and you have no distractions, you may only need 3 or 5 years to create a miracle. You will form the ignis celestial body and break through to the golden core realm. But what about my heart?" Tang Linglong asked. Jiang Tian looked down and pondered for a while. Then he raised his eyebrows and said coldly, "Linglong, if the spirit chi of Earth recovers, there will be a strong enemy. Earth will be in danger. I am doing this for your own good." Besides, the ancient Earth and the deity ground were facing the Annihilator, which was a divine-level civilization. I may die in battle. For safety's sake, I must leave the roots of my cultivation method behind. And you are my only hope. Master, you are so cruel, Tang Linglong sneered. I've already heard that the dimension passage between Westland and Earth can only be opened naturally once every 60 years, not even with a teleport array. Xianglong and the others used a dimension treasure to open it once, but from now on, I'm afraid no one will be able to open it except for you. You left, but left me here. I'm not waiting here for 3, 5, or 10 years, but 60 years. You're destroying my feelings for you. You're putting me in jail. Nonsense. This is seclusion, not jail. Jiang Tian's sword-like eyebrows knitted together as he scolded. If you have the courage to advance, if your Tao heart is as firm as a rock, you shouldn't think like that. I'm very disappointed in you. Master, will you let me go and let me follow you if I've never loved you? Tang Linglong bent her knees and knelt in front of Jiang Tian. She pulled Jiang Tian's sleeve with one hand and clutched her chest with the other. But my heart doesn't listen to me. I can't control it. Master, 60 years. You're so cruel. If you think that this heart that loves you is wrong, then cut it out. Take it away. Just let me follow you. Wicked disciple. Shut up. Jiang Tian suddenly turned around and didn't want to see her crying face. He was so angry that his body trembled. He had never been so angry before. Master, when you were at the Death Hill, did you plan everything that happened today? Tang Linglong asked. No. I'm doing this for your own good. Jiang Tian flung his sleeves and said angrily. Was it after we came to Westland? Tang Linglong was stunned and mumbled, Master, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid to face me? Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she said excitedly, Is it because I killed Feng Ao and the others without any regard for my own safety that day? Did it move you? Did it make you waver? Yes, you wavered. You love me because of pity. Your heart is in chaos. You're afraid that you can't control your feelings for me. You're afraid that you'll let Master's wife down, right? Silly child, I respect you. I don't want to let you down. That's right. Jiang Tian slowly turned around and wiped away her tears. Tenderness flashed in his eyes as he said gently, Linglong, cultivate well. Master succeeded because of you. But Tang Linglong felt as if she was melted by Jiang Tian's gentle gaze. Her viciousness dissipated, but she was still a little unwilling and wronged. Linglong, a person's potential is limitless. You might be able to create an immortal body in an even shorter time. Jiang Tian comforted her. Although Whitebeard, Huiyen, and the others can't break the space barrier by force, I taught them the method to communicate with me through the space barrier. As long as you create an immortal body, let them inform me and I'll come to pick you up immediately, okay? Moreover, if you cultivate the ignis immortal body and condense the gold core, even if I don't come to pick you up, you'll be able to tear this thin space barrier. Heaven and earth will no longer be able to restrain you. Master, I'll listen to you. But you have to remember your promise. Tang Linglong's delicate body trembled. She lowered her head and gritted her teeth. She knew how strict Jiang Tian was. If she dared to pester him again, she was afraid that Jiang Tian would really expel her from the sect. When have I ever broken my promise to you? Jiang Tian touched Tang Linglong's head and smiled gently. Then, a trace of determination flashed across his face. He stepped into the air and turned into a golden rainbow that pierced through heaven and earth. Soon he disappeared from Tang Linglong's sight. Tang Linglong scanned her surroundings. The desolate desert, the barren mountains, and the unfamiliar faces were full of fear. She could not help but feel a trace of sadness and loneliness that could not be dissipated. But in her heart, she did not regret meeting Jiang Tian. She had no regrets. Fairy Linglong, let's enter the Red Lotus Hellfire Pagoda, Hui Yen, who was beside her, said fearfully. Tang Linglong looked away and walked toward the Hellfire Pagoda. She clenched her fists and secretly made up her mind. I, Tang Linglong, will not leave this pagoda until I reach the gold core stage and create an immortal body. I, Tang Linglong, will definitely create an immortal body and reach the gold core stage within 5 years. Chapter 12-13. May 2013. Death Hill. Due to the invasion of West Earth, it had become an important military base that attracted the attention of the world. There were armies stationed there, nuclear weapons displayed, and Coelian defenses. Every day, hundreds of thousands of soldiers patrolled day and night, closely monitoring the situation. Fighter jets roared and helicopters took off and landed. It was very busy. At this moment, in a sturdy military fortress, Keynes was pacing back and forth anxiously, sighing. Yidenren was meditating cross-legged on a futon, breathing slowly. Keynes, who had been promoted to the Deputy Minister of Defense of the Pentagon, asked anxiously, Brother Tianren, Mr. Jiang has been to West Earth for several months and hasn't returned yet. Could something have happened to him? Ever since they realized the existence of the dimensional world and its possible threats, Earth's technology had advanced by leaps and bounds. For example, space fluctuation detection, space station defense technology, Coelian weapons system, and god-slaying weapons had made great progress in a short period of time. In Jiang Tian's previous life, there were only a dozen space stations around Earth. However, after the existence of the dimensional world was proven, there were now more than 30 space stations in just over a year. Moreover, more than a dozen space detectors had been launched in the past year, all of which were pointed at the twin stars of the Southern Gate. Although humans were weak, they had always been the primes of the world. They had the courage to conquer nature. The greater the pressure, the greater the potential. After Jiang Tian left, many space detectors had been set up in the sky above Death Hill to detect space and energy fluctuations. Unfortunately, ever since the spatial fluctuation detector was activated, it had not detected the slightest fluctuation. A few months had passed, and Keynes was very anxious. He was like an ant on a hot pan. After understanding how powerful West Earth was, Keynes firmly believed that only Kong Teichu and his cultivation civilization could save Earth. Don't worry. Your teacher has never fought an unprepared war. If he wasn't confident, he would never have gone to West Earth. Yi Tianren opened his eyes and comforted him. That's good, that's good. I hope so. Keynes smiled apologetically, but the anxiety in his heart didn't lessen by much. He was now Jiang Tian's representative in the United States. If something happened to Jiang Tian, he would lose his position as the Deputy Minister of National Defense. The existence of dimensional worlds was no longer a secret. Under the threat of Armageddon, mankind's thinking had undergone a tremendous change. In response to this, many fan forums had been created. For example, Neighbor Star, Nest of Dimensions, Native Alliance, and so on. Many netizens were discussing it. What was bizarre was that even though West Earth was clearly showing hostility, not everyone hated West Earth. Many people hoped that the dimensional world would descend and completely destroy the existing order on Earth, this evil world. Yi Tianren and the others had never expected that there would still be people who wanted to surrender in the face of such a cruel massacre in West Earth. These people who surrendered believed in West Earth and the dimensional world. They believed that they were really gods and that it was because the humans on Earth were too evil that they sent calamities and tribulations to clean up Earth. There were even extreme surrenders who hid human bombs and came near the Death Hill base to shout slogans and self-destruct. Of course, other than blowing themselves up, they couldn't blow anyone up. After all, the defense here was too tight. It was likely that the power of the powerhouses of West Earth had made them afraid. Extreme fear suppressed resistance and created a worship mentality. No matter what, everyone had to accept reality and be wary of the existence of such surrenders. Many military experts even speculated. If Jiang Tian died in West Earth, such thoughts might become more and more intense. There would definitely be chaos in the world and even a third world war. Therefore, one could imagine Kane's anxiety. Yi Tianren let out a long sigh and said, "The real threat isn't the secular world, but the people in the cultivation world." What? Is there anyone in the cultivation world who dares to cause trouble? Mr. Jiang's prestige can't suppress them? Keynes didn't dare to believe it. He knew Jiang Tian's strength the best. At least, he knew Jiang Tian's performance on Earth the best. He could even crush America and the European Union. This was no longer the power of the secular world. Who would dare to resist? There are already some factions that are very unstable now. A trace of murderous intent flashed across Yi Tianren's eyes. Who dares to provoke us? Suddenly, a cold voice was heard. This voice made Yi Tianren's expression change drastically. He was overjoyed. Master is back. He flew out and saw Jiang Tian appear in the teleportation portal made of lightning. He floated out, and there were a few old men in strange clothes with him. The true dragon patriarch scanned the surroundings and saw the planes and tanks. He smiled and said, "The spirit chi on Earth is indeed thin and withered, but these strange things are not bad. Even without an artifact spirit, it can still fly and run. They're too slow and fragile." Lian Xing shook his head with a hint of disdain. "The magnetic force here seems to be much smaller than the subdimension. We might be able to move faster." The Nether River Patriarch rubbed his chin and pondered. "Master." Disciple welcomes Master's triumphant return. Yi Tianren knelt on the ground with a look of reverence and excitement. The West Earth was the crystallization of the ancient Indian civilization. It was said that there were countless golden core cultivators there, but Jiang Tian had conquered it in a few months. Especially the few people behind Jiang Tian. They looked old and unsophisticated, and their auras were extraordinary. They were definitely much stronger than him. However, they seemed to be very respectful to Master. Could it be that they were Master's disciples? Jiang Tian helped him up and immediately asked, "There's no need to be so polite. Get up. Heavenly man, how is Qingya?" "Everything is fine. I just miss Master very much." Yi Tianren hurriedly bowed and said. A smile finally appeared on Jiang Tian's face. He was relieved and said, "Let's go back to the sect." At this moment, he was eager to return home. He did not care about anything except for his wife, children, and family. One of Jiang Tian's private planes had been parked at an airport in the Death Hill base, waiting for Jiang Tian to come back. At this moment, Jiang Tian and the others immediately prepared to board the plane. He glanced at Li Wuji and said, "Wuji, let's part ways for now. We'll fight side by side again when we have time." "Tai Chu, are you going to revive the spirit chi immediately?" Li Wuji asked with a worried look. Jiang Tian nodded and said, "The spirit chi on Earth is too weak and the human race is too weak. Now that the seeds of spirit chi revival have gathered, what do we need to wait for?" "Then I have something important to report. I have to go with you to Sidoni Tianqing School." Li Wuji said anxiously, "Hey, come with me." Jiang Tian nodded. So, Yi Karen and Lady Wu returned to Wuxia, while Jiang Tian and the others took the plane back to Sidoni. When they parted, "Grandpa, take care of yourself." Yi Karen walked to Yi Tianren and took his arm. "But we'll all take care." Yi Tianren nodded. His voice was filled with vicissitudes of life, reluctant to part. The Yi family was loyal and devoted to serving the country. They worked hard in different positions. The grandfather and grandson hadn't seen each other for a long time. On Jiang Tian's private plane. This is interesting. The little people inside can move. It's so real. It's like the Wanli mirror in the ruins of immortality. But the Wanli mirror is very expensive and there aren't many of them in the ruins of immortality, but they can be seen everywhere here. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon, Old Monster Mingi, and the others fiddled with the LCD computer on the seat curiously like country children. Perhaps they didn't care about the weapons on Earth at all. However, the many electronic devices on the internet and the rich cultural works refreshed their views. The civilization on Earth definitely had some extraordinary things, and some things were inferior to the ruins of immortality. Yi Tianren frowned and asked worriedly, "Master, why isn't senior sister back?" He was referring to Tang Linglong. Although Yi Tianren was more powerful than her, the hierarchy still had to be respected. "She's fine." Jiang Tian smiled and said, "She's now the sect master of the fire worship sect, the second sect in West Earth. There's Red Lotus Earth Fire there, which is one of the 12 Earth-level alien fires. It can help her build a deity body." Well, there was too much information and Yi Tianren couldn't come back to his senses. Li Wuji quickly said, "Our friend Tai Chu is now the world supreme of West Earth. He has crushed all the forces and completely defeated them." He excitedly recounted his experience in the Western Earth realm, and when he got excited, his saliva flew everywhere. Of course, he didn't kill many people from the beginning to the end. He would never tell them that he was always afraid of fighting. Meanwhile, Heavenly Leaf Taoist was also extremely excited as he listened to Jiang Tian's story. His heart was racing, and he wished he could follow Jiang Tian and conquer the world. However, Yi Tianren also sensed that Li Wuji admired Jiang Tian from the bottom of his heart, like a fan meeting his idol. He didn't dare to be on the same level as Jiang Tian anymore. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said meaningfully, "Wuji, you didn't go back to your Kunlun sect but insisted on accompanying me to Tianqing school. Didn't you have something important to discuss? Just tell me." Chapter 12:14. Li Wuji's face turned solemn as he said, "Fellow Taoist Tai Chu, you know that the immortal trap array and the heaven and earth cage exist around Earth. Anyone who reaches the level of celestial immortal, which is actually the third level of the Foundation establishment realm, will trigger the immortal trap array and face a calamity." "Indeed." Jiang Tian nodded. He had sensed the existence of the deity trap array when the Azure Mystic sect disciple came to Earth. "Do you think that you and I are the most powerful overlords on Earth, and the others are all below the third level of the Foundation establishment?" Li Wuji asked. "What do you mean?" Jiang Tian furrowed his brows, and his face turned serious. In fact, Jiang Tian had searched for information about many hidden forces on Earth from the Pentagon and other intelligence agencies. For example, the legendary mermen, the Atlantis civilization, the reclusive royalty, and the many hidden sects in Wuxia. However, Jiang Tian didn't take it to heart. He had dominated three-dimensional worlds and could kill golden core cultivators with a snap of his fingers. Why would he care about those people on Earth? "My friend Tai Chu. In fact, things on Earth aren't as simple as you think. There are beings beyond the Foundation establishment. There are even golden core overlords." After hearing what Li Wuji said, Yi Tianren was shocked and said, "Senior, how is that possible? The deity trap array and the heaven and earth cage are so strict and the ancient covenant is ruthless. How can such overlords be allowed to appear?" Li Wuji shook his head and said, "The Tai Chu and I are both beyond the third level of the Foundation establishment. You've even surpassed the heavenly being level. Why didn't we trigger the heaven and earth cage again?" Yi Tianren seemed to be deep in thought. In fact, ever since he returned from the stellar sky world, under the guidance of Jiang Tian and the accumulation of endless cultivation resources, his cultivation had already reached the first level of the golden core realm. But according to the cultivation art Jiang Tian taught him, he didn't. Jiang Tian nodded and said, My cultivation was suppressed by the thick earth chain. I taught the heavenly being and the other disciples a cultivation art before I left. It's called the art of deceiving the heavens. You live in the dimensional world of Kunlun Mountain. This dimensional world is on Earth, but there are still dimensional barriers and the heaven and earth cage can't detect it. In fact, Jiang Tian already knew it. There were too many cultivation arts to hide one's cultivation. There must be some hidden overlords on Earth. Yi Tianren is the most powerful cultivator in Huaxia's cultivation world. How many people in the world do you know him? Li Wuji said. It's the same in the cultivation world. There are many secrets that you can never know until you reach a certain level. Jiang Tian said lightly, you are a living fossil in the cultivation world of Huaxia. I think you know more about the cultivation world of Huaxia than I do. You can tell me if there are any hidden overlords or forces. How can I bear the title of living fossil in front of you, fellow cultivator grand beginning? Li Wuji was terrified. He was extremely polite. Then, he said seriously, in fact, there are indeed some forces that you need to be careful of. The first one is the famous families of the Pre-Qin dynasty, including the Yu family of Sishui, the Yin and Yi families of Anyang, the Ji and Jiang families of West Capital. The Yu family of Sishui? Are they the descendants of Yu the Great? Yidanren was shocked when he heard this. These three forces are called the famous families of the Pre-Qin dynasty. It is said that the leader of the Yu family still controls the 9 cauldrons. Once they are activated, they have the power to shake the 9 states and destroy the earth. We have to be careful, Li Wuji said solemnly with a serious expression. The 9 cauldrons in history are Dharma artifacts. They still exist. The descendants of Yu the Great have obtained them. When Yi Tianren heard this, he was extremely shocked and emotionally moved. Legend had it that Yu the Great was the great-grandson of the Yellow Emperor in history. He had made great achievements in controlling the flood and established the Xia dynasty at the Tushan meeting. That was where the Xian in Huaxia came from. After the Tushan meeting, he made the 9 cauldrons with the metals contributed by the tyrants to show his supreme power. The 9 cauldrons symbolized the ancient 9 states of Huaxia and had a profound influence in history. Later generations used the 9 cauldrons to represent Huaxia. Conquering the world meant becoming the emperor, which showed how powerful and influential it was. However, there was a legend in the cultivation world that the 9 cauldrons were not a symbol, but some kind of powerful Dharma artifact. Once obtained, one could suppress the 9 states and control the world. It was said that the Shang dynasty and the Zhou dynasty started the war to seize the 9 cauldrons. Only by seizing the 9 cauldrons could one enjoy the supreme power forever. After the Shang dynasty defeated Xia Jie and obtained the 9 cauldrons, they had been placed in the palace. When Pan Geng moved the capital to Yin, the 9 cauldrons moved with him. After King Wu of Zhou defeated the Shang dynasty and King Cheng of Zhou ascended the throne, King Cheng of Zhou built Luo Yi and placed the 9 cauldrons in the city. He asked King Cheng to host the ceremony and place the 9 cauldrons in the Ming Hall. The next year after the Qin dynasty defeated the Zhou dynasty, the 9 cauldrons of the Zhou dynasty were moved to Xining. However, when Qin Shi Huang defeated the 6 states and united the world, the 9 cauldrons were nowhere to be found. Some said that the 9 cauldrons sank in Peng city of Sishui. Qin Shi Huang had sent people to search for the cauldrons in Peng city of Sishui, but it was in vain, which led to the fall of the Qin dynasty. All these legends were full of mystery and no one dared to underestimate them. Of course, the history of Huaxia goes back to ancient times. After so many years, it's hard to distinguish between myths and history. Li Wuji said, sometimes, myths and legends that sound unbelievable are actually history. On the contrary, some histories are too simple. Behind them, there are stories that can move one's heart and move one's heart. Are the Yu family really the descendants of Yu the Great? Jiang Tian chuckled and said sarcastically, just because they have the 9 cauldrons, it's too much to conclude that they are the descendants of Yu the Great. Well, it's hard to say. Li Wuji smiled bitterly. But ever since I joined the Kunlun sect, the The Yu family has always been a powerful force on par with the Kunlun sect. It's just that they are even more low-key than the Kunlun sect. They don't show their strength, so no one knows about them. This is the reason why the famous sects are unknown. As for the Yi family of Yinshu in Anyang, they are the descendants of the Yinshang dynasty and the first prime minister of the Yinshang dynasty, Qin. They are powerful and powerful. But they are not as powerful as the Yu family. The Ji family and the Jiang family of the West capital are the descendants of Ji Chang and Jiang Zia, respectively. These two families made a name for themselves in the Battle of God's Investiture. They have many divine powers and Dharma artifacts. Once they explode, they will be even more powerful. If those myths and legends are true, many of them have reached the foundation establishment or the golden core level. Jiang Tian nodded and said with a sarcastic smile, but I'm afraid that their descendants may not be as powerful as them. Their current strength is probably at the foundation establishment or the golden core level, but there is no possibility of them reaching the nascent soul level. Of course, they can't be compared with Tai Chu, but they are still a force to be reckoned with. Li Wuji said worriedly. Their Dharma artifacts are what we need to be most vigilant about. These Dharma artifacts were just SOSO before the recovery of spirit chi. But once the spirit chi recovers and is nourished, their power will increase greatly. They will surpass spirit treasures and even reach the level of true weapons. After all, many of these Dharma artifacts came from the era of the Yen Emperor and the Yellow Emperor. They were created by the ancient grand cultivators. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said, "That's right. Other than the famous families of the Preqin dynasty, are there any other forces?" "There are a few more." Li Wuji narrowed his eyes and said, "One is a demon dragon in the Dragon Lake of the Changbai Mountain. He is the leader of the demons in Huaxia and is known as the Demon Emperor. I heard that he has lived for more than 2,000 years and has stirred up trouble many times in history. However, since the spirit chi on Earth withered, this demon dragon has been dormant for a long time. But I think he will take action after the recovery of spirit chi. This demon emperor is the leader of all the demons in the world. I heard that the white snake in the Qingqing mountain, the yellow deity, the white deity, the hedgehog spirit and the fox deity are all overlords under his command. They are loyal to him." Hearing this, Jiang Tian showed a mocking smile and shook his head slightly. With the current spirit chi on Earth, only flood dragons could be born, not true dragons. In terms of species, they were even inferior to the purple gold true dragon that liked to turn into a big black dog. Besides, so what if they were true dragons? Lei Meng was an existence that surpassed true dragons and had a lifespan of 10,000 years, but he was still slapped away by him. As for the four deities, they were not true immortals. They couldn't even form their nascent souls. They used illusions to confuse people's minds and were not worth mentioning. Seeing that Jiang Tian didn't care, Li Wuji said, "Besides, Mount Mang is a place of extreme yin. It is called the Ghost City, and the Ghost City. It also has forces like the Prajna Temple and the Ghost City. You need to be careful." Meng. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said, "I know about the Pentagon. I've read all the information about Mount Mang in the Pentagon. It's said that there are a lot of ghost legends there. But it's nothing to worry about. Since when do we need to be afraid of some ghosts?" According to statistics, 24 emperors had been buried in Mount Mang since the Eastern Han Dynasty, including 8 tombs of the Eastern Zhou Dynasty, 5 tombs of the Eastern Han Dynasty, 1 tomb of the Chao Wei Dynasty, 5 tombs of the Western Jin Dynasty, 4 tombs of the Northern Wei Dynasty, and 1 tomb of the Tang Dynasty. It was the place with the most number of emperors buried in Huaxia. But Jiang Tian wasn't afraid at all. Evil spirits were very frightening to ordinary people. But in the eyes of cultivators, they were too weak to be a threat. Even if they became ghost soldiers, ghost generals, ghost kings, ghost emperors, zombies, yikshas, flying yikshas, and sky corpses, Jiang Tian could kill them with a flick of his finger. The path of cultivation focused on the physical body, vital energy, and spirit. Without the physical body and vital energy, there was only the soul. Without the physical body and vital energy, how could one become a peerless expert? They could only be second or third class at best. In fact, Jiang Tian was more worried about the forces outside of Wuxia. As expected, Keynes immediately said, "Indeed, forces such as the Sea Clan in the Bermuda Triangle, the lost civilization of Atlantis, the Hanging Garden of Babylon, the Egyptian Pharaoh's Pyramid, and the Tunguska Devil Cave all need to be paid attention to. Let your Special Intelligence Agency inform them to join the Spiritual Energy Recovery Alliance." Jiang Tian said casually, "Let's call it the Alliance. After all, the Spiritual Energy Recovery Alliance is equivalent to planting the Eternal Tao Foundation. Earth is about to enter the mythological era." Jiang Tian smiled maliciously and said, "They'd better sign a contract with me obediently, listen to my orders, and guard Earth together. Otherwise, they're just a bunch of clowns. They're not worth mentioning." Jiang Tian didn't take these to heart. Instead, he asked, "By the way, Heavenly Man, how's the situation with the 9 Dragons Guiding Spirit Array at Tianqing School?" Chapter 12:15. The other worlds looked down on Earth and thought it was a country of ants. Although it was hard to accept, they had their reasons. After all, even though Earth was the ancestral land of many other worlds, it had already entered the age of decline after a series of changes, such as the arrival of planet destruction, the twilight of the gods, the escape of the deity ground, the signing of the ancient treaty, and the imprisonment of the deity trap array. The most powerful overlords on Earth were only false core cultivators or golden core cultivators, whose power had been suppressed and their energy had been weakened. Their real power had been reduced, and there were only a few of them. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. With such standards and numbers, there were only a few of them. They couldn't even compare to the level 4-dimensional world, heavenly star, let alone heavenly country and West Earth. Of course, they wouldn't enter the eyes of the experts of the dimensional worlds. If the ancient path of the universe was open, Earth would have been occupied if those worlds invaded on a large scale. However, Jiang Tian, an old monster who had lived for 10,000 years, had come back and caught them off guard. That was why the other worlds had been defeated so many times. Now that Jiang Tian had conquered 3 worlds, he wouldn't care about the remaining forces on Earth. Of course, Jiang Tian didn't want to kill them. After all, they were in the same world and shared honor and disgrace. Jiang Tian also wanted to use them to form an army of cultivators on Earth. But if they didn't know what was good for them and went against Jiang Tian wouldn't go easy on them. He would kill them with a slap. Without them, Earth wouldn't be able to move. Reporting to Master, while you were sweeping through West Earth, the 9 Dragons Spirit Guiding Formation and many Spirit Creation Wells have been completed. Yi Tianren immediately reported. Presently, the Heavenly Clear sect was filled with talents and was in full swing. Hong Yi and Zhang Qingzhen were in charge of the arrays. In Zhang Qingzhen's mind, there was a remnant soul that was proficient in modern magic tools and formations. Red Leaf, on the other hand, had inherited Jiang Tian's supreme formation techniques and was very accomplished in the field of classical formations. Although the two of them had different ideas and would sometimes have a conflict of opinions, they could also find and fill in each other's gaps and work together to quickly implement Jiang Tian's design ideas. Moreover, the 3rd generation of disciples had also begun to reveal their talents. A group of newcomers had emerged, and they were able to stand on their own. Before Jiang Tian set foot in West Earth the last time, he had left behind many of the formation materials he had obtained from Heavenly Star and Heavenly Country. Among them, there was no lack of heavenly and earthly treasures, forming the richest material treasury in Earth's cultivation world. With all the conditions in place, the disciples worked day and night under the pressure of the dimensional world's invasion. Now, the 9 Dragons Guiding Spirit Array and many Spirit Creation Wells could be put to use. Everything was ready except for the East Wind. There were only 2 steps left. Install and use the Spirit Aura Recovery Seed to guide the array formation. Then, they would be able to trigger the destruction of the planet. Hearing this, Jiang Tian relaxed and said, "Thank you for your hard work." Whoosh whoosh. Jiang Tian's private plane was extremely fast. After a few hours of flight, It flew to the sky above Sidoni. Outside the porthole, white clouds were everywhere. Sidoni was bustling with activity, and construction was in full swing. Under the scorching sun, industrial workers and technicians were sweating profusely. All kinds of industrial zones and new cities were springing up like bamboo shoots after the rain. The small Sidoni actually had 5 Kuelian systems built. Some were already completed, while others were still under construction. That sunflower-like weapon must be the legendary Kuelian. Master's foundation in formations and refining is really terrifying. Suddenly, Patriarch True Dragon looked down from the window and exclaimed in surprise. His eyes were full of admiration. Is this a Kuelian? Moreover, this dojo has a protective formation, and the degree of spiritual energy is no less than that of many sacred dojos in the third-level dimensional world. My lord, what is the name of this spirit formation? It seems to have an amazing defensive ability. Patriarch True Dragon's exclamation attracted the attention of Ta Kong, Mingyi, and Liansheng. They took a closer look and were all shocked. They could not believe it. Under the cover of clouds, like rain and fog, there was an endless stretch of exquisite palaces. Light flashed, and auspicious colors filled the air. It was like a celestial mountain palace. There was also a hillside with a radius of a few hundred acres. It was densely packed with herbs, including Ganoderma and jade herb. The spiritual herbs exuded a rich aura of plants and trees. They were surging with vitality. Even though they were 1,000 meters away, they felt very comfortable when they took a deep breath. Their pores were jumping with joy. Before this, they had always regarded Earth as a remote and desolate place with little spirit chi and did not take it to heart. If it were not for the fact that Jiang Tian was powerful, talented, and worthy of following, they would not have come to this remote place. However, they did not expect that Jiang Tian would build a protective formation and a spiritual energy-gathering formation here. This kind of feeling was like seeing a beautiful European-style villa in a backward countryside. It was very shocking. In fact, from Jiang Tian's point of view, Wuxia and Southeast Asian countries were all building Kuelian. They were like huge flowers that could be seen clearly on the plain. These Kuelian buildings were very visually striking. Many people regarded them as scenic spots that surpassed the Eiffel Tower of Paris and the pyramids of Egypt. Seeing Jiang Tian's gratified face, Yi Tianren calmly reported, Kuelian system. Since the shocking battle on the Death Hill, every country has realized the importance of Kuelian. Every country in the top 5 has ordered more than 10 Kuelian buildings. They intend to cover all their countries. The Kuelian buildings in the United States and the European Union are still priced at $100 billion per unit. However, Wuxia ordered 20 Kuelian buildings, and we have completed them first. According to the matriarch's wishes, Sidoni Tianqing School did not charge a penny from Wuxia. Wuxia will always be our homeland. Our motherland will always be the mother who gave birth to us and helped us grow from a weak sapling to a towering tree. We left our motherland and went to Sidoni only because we had no choice but to avoid some contradictions under the special historical background. However, this patriotism cannot be changed. Just like a wanderer, we can't forget our motherland and where our roots are just because we have the ability now. That would be forgetting our ancestors, being unfaithful, unrighteous, unfilial, and unworthy of being a human. Jiang Tian smiled when he heard this. He thought to himself, listening to this, with the nourishment of the spiritual energy recovery seed, Qing'er has recovered well and is already dealing with official business. 20 Kuelian buildings, according to the cost price, would be $10 billion per building. 20 buildings would be $200 billion. This was not a small amount for anyone, and it was enough to make one the richest man in the world. However, Jiang Tian always had a deep sense of gratitude to Wuxia and his motherland. Jiang Tian always hoped that his motherland would be prosperous and strong. He hoped that it would always stand proudly among the nations of the world. He hoped that every person in Wuxia could be happy and healthy. To be able to do something for the motherland, to be able to do something for the people, this little bit of money was nothing to Jiang Tian. The spirit energy here is so rich, and it is no less than the top dojos in the third-level dimensional world. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder and exclaimed in admiration. Suddenly, an earth-shattering dragon roar sounded in the Tianqing School dojo. There is actually a purple gold true dragon. It seems to have a more noble and powerful bloodline than the true dragon ancestor. There is also a battle ape. Everyone looked over in shock. In the sea of clouds, 100-feet-long dragon with a thick waist, horns and scales rolled and swayed in the air like a bullet train. Monkey, if you dare to do that again, I will smash you into a meat pie and eat you. The flood dragon roared loudly as it fought against a giant fiery red ape that was holding a big stick in its hand. The two of them were fighting to their heart's content. On their backs sat a boy and a girl. One of them was King Arthur, and the other was Jiang Tian's cousin, Jiang Wan. It seemed that the two of them had become familiar with the old dragon and the Chitian monkey and the big black dog. This is the old dragon and the big black dog. This dragon is indeed a purple gold true dragon, but it likes to turn into a big black dog. Because it can't turn into a human yet. Jiang Tian smiled and said, "The old dragon was an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator before. Of course, its bloodline was powerful and it might be able to deal with a mid-stage foundation establishment celestial master. However, it was a coward and would often retreat without a fight. It could only deal with immortal masters at most. However, the purple gold true dragon had a good life. It had swallowed many overlords and even ate the golden cores Jiang Tian brought back. It was nourished and had reached the late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. It was now powerful enough to crush mid-stage and late-stage foundation establishment overlords and even fake core overlords. If it could overcome its cowardice and use its full strength, it wouldn't even be afraid of a golden core perfected immortal. He scanned with his immortal will. In the Tianqing sect, Zhao Xueqing, who was heavily pregnant and had her right hand on her waist, was clumsily pacing around the training field. She guided the cultivation of many disciples and would occasionally stop to listen to the reports of Qin Yang and the others, as well as deal with some sect and international affairs. Seeing this, Jiang Tian's heart became hot and his eyes turned red. He couldn't calm down anymore. In West Earth, Jiang Tian couldn't wait to go home. When he saw the face of his beloved wife, he suddenly felt that all the hard work and risks were worth it. Humans weren't isolated islands. Jiang Tian had never believed in the narrow-minded view that a cultivator's heart had to be like a dried-up well, and their emotions had to be like dead ashes. Only by severing all emotions and desires could one attain the Tao fruit and prove the Tao of the universe. Cultivators were also humans. As for humans, only when they were together with the person they loved and saw her smile would their life have meaning. Only then would they be able to obtain endless motivation, and only then would they be able to persevere and advance courageously on the long journey of cultivation. Only then would they be able to persevere, advance bravely, and advance courageously. Swish, swish. Even though there was a landing pad in the sect, it only took a few minutes to get down. However, Jiang Tian still stepped on the ground. He couldn't wait any longer. Chapter 12:16. Zhao Xueqing also missed Jiang Tian very much. That kind of longing was like a poisonous snake coiling around her heart, constantly gnawing at it. It was gloomy and empty, and she couldn't muster up the energy to do anything. This kind of loneliness and helplessness was most obvious in a pregnant woman. Moreover, she wasn't an ordinary pregnant woman. Her and her baby's physique was too special. The child she was carrying would also make her body extremely weak, powerless, and irritated. At this time, she naturally yearned for Jiang Tian's company. However, Zhao Xueqing was soft on the outside but strong on the inside. She was deeply righteous. She didn't cry or complain. She forced herself to stand up and walk out. She guided the disciples and handled the sect's affairs, as well as Sidoni's domestic and international affairs. After all, Jiang Tian wasn't around, and there were many things that no one dared to make the decision. They needed her to make the decision. Moreover, she was the person who understood Jiang Tian the most. She knew Jiang Tian's many cultivation techniques, methods, and thoughts on governing the country. She was like a clone of Jiang Tian, able to make the most appropriate decisions. Although she had a few spirit qi recovery seeds protecting her, after a day of hard work, Zhao Xueqing was a little tired. Her waist was sore. She felt that the little guy in her stomach was like a vampire, constantly devouring her vitality and energy. If only he was here. He is too capable. He is the most capable man in the world. He will definitely handle it better and faster than me. It's just that I heard that West Earth is too dangerous. Golden core cultivators are everywhere, and there are many strong cultivators there. I'm afraid he won't return for 3 to 5 years. I don't know if my child and I can last until then. The pale Zhao Xueqing pressed her sore waist and sat down on a stone bench beside the training ground. There was a hint of sorrow in her eyes as she muttered to herself. Just as she was thinking about this, a white rainbow suddenly shot through the sky and a handsome young man landed in front of her, looking at her with a smile. Jiang Tian? Why did you come back? Zhao Xueqing's first reaction was shyness. She had a weak body and was slightly plump. There were also some pregnancy spots on her face. She was so ugly that she didn't seem to be worthy of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian stepped forward and took her hand. He chuckled and said, "Isn't it good for me to come back quickly? You made me miss you so much. Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? This Yidanren really gave me a fright." Feeling the warmth from Jiang Tian's big hand, Zhao Xueqing's heart was filled with warmth and happiness. She tightened her grip on Jiang Tian's hand and pouted coquettishly. She could feel Jiang Tian's gentle gaze, which was filled with deep love. She knew that no matter what she had become, her husband would still love her deeply. "I'm just giving you a surprise, but it shouldn't be a shock, right?" Jiang Tian rubbed his nose and smiled. "Our son is back? Are you hurt? I heard it's pretty good. Master is back. Let's go and take a look." Immediately, Jiang Zhixing, Zhang Wanqing, Old Master Jiang Changing, Sidu Shao, Zhao Yuankuan, Shen Mange, and many other disciples, as well as Huang Linger, put aside their matters and rushed over to meet Jiang Tian. The old dragon also transformed into a big black dog and ran to Jiang Tian. He happily fawned over Jiang Tian, saying that he had lost weight from hunger without his master around. The entire sect was in an uproar of jubilation. Everyone's faces were filled with ecstasy and relief. They were extremely excited, and their hanging hearts finally landed on the ground. The legendary West Earth was too powerful. The famous Brahmin was just a puppet on Earth. The Gautama Buddha on Earth had also been inspired by the Brahmins and established the Gautama Buddha sect. In terms of origin, the Gautama Buddha sect in the Westland was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than the Brahmins and Buddhists on Earth. Over the past few days, everyone had been worried that Jiang Tian would die in West Earth. Everyone felt like a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts. Looking at everyone's joyful gazes, Jiang Tian also felt a trace of warmth in his heart. He said, "I've already conquered West Earth." Then he recounted the many battles. Everyone listened with fascination. They didn't expect West Earth to be such a bizarre world. Good. My grandson is so capable that he can control the 3 realms alone. Such an achievement is truly unprecedented. He can be revered forever. Jiang Changing was so excited that he slapped his thigh, and his entire body trembled slightly. "Sai, I don't want you to be the revered one or the ruler of the world. It's too dangerous to fight and kill every day. I just want our family to live peacefully and happily together." Zhang Wanqing's eyes turned red as she said angrily, "You can't leave this time. Now that you're back, you can't leave again. At least wait until Qinger gives birth to the child, and both mother and child will be safe. No egg will remain intact when the nest is overturned. Now, our son is fighting for humanity, for Earth." Jiang Zhixing was proud of Jiang Tian. He patted Jiang Tian's shoulder in relief and said, "As expected of my son. Well done." Although Jiang Tian was powerful in the past, he was still shackled by many things and couldn't transcend Earth. But now Jiang Tian had become the master of 3 dimensions. Each of these 3-dimensional worlds was several times more prosperous and powerful than Earth. Now, the whole world had to rely on Jiang Tian and treat him as the savior of the world. Even the leaders of the 5 great countries had to bow their heads and respect him. At night, Jiang Tian accompanied his family for a meal. Wang Lin was also present. Zhang Wanqing treated her like her own daughter. Jiang Changing drank to his heart's content, emptying his cup when the wine arrived. However, his cultivation was not bad now, having already reached the foundation establishment realm, so he couldn't get drunk at all. Jiang Tian had to pour him several cups of immortal wine before he could leave. During the meal, Zhao Xueqing asked about Tang Linglong. Why didn't she come back? Did something happen to her? How would she explain it to the Tang family? Jiang Tian sipped a cup of wine and said calmly, I'll help her stay in West Earth and use the red lotus earth fire to forge the ignis immortal body. She'll be back in 10 years if she's fast and 60 if she's slow. 60 years. Wang Linger's body trembled when she heard that. A piece of fish in her chopsticks fell to the ground, and her face turned pale from fright. Zhao Xueqing frowned, wanting to say something but hesitating. Zhang Wanqing slapped her chopsticks and scolded Jiang Tian for being too cruel. Wouldn't he be the one making trouble for the old woman? Don't think too much. Jiang Tian smiled bitterly. Cultivation knows no time. Do you know how long I was in seclusion in my previous life? The shortest was 10 years, and the longest was 1,000 years. Some people even went into seclusion and didn't come out until they broke through. What are 10 years or a few decades? After the banquet ended, Zhang Wanqing used tea as an excuse to pull the uneasy Wang Lin to the tea room and comforted her. Child, don't be afraid of this bastard. With me around, he won't dare to treat you like this. Wang Lin forced a smile and said, Andy, I'm fine. It's just that I'm afraid I'll have to call him Master and Sister Qingham Master's wife in the future. She was smiling, but sparkling tears were rolling down her cheeks. Seeing her crying nonstop, Zhang Wanqing felt that her heart was about to break. She hugged Wang Lin and said in a choked voice, Child, your life is really too tough. But he's stubborn. Auntie can't do anything about it. I'm fine, I'm fine. Wang Lin didn't dare to cry out loud. I'm also very satisfied to be by his side and be his disciple. Jiang Tian and Qing'er were drinking tea in the living room. Zhao Xueqing was still trying to persuade Jiang Tian to bring Tang Linglong back. At this moment, Yinanren walked over and said softly, Master, Master's wife, everyone is in the meeting hall. We can start the meeting. All right, go to the meeting hall and wait first. Jiang Tian gladly agreed. After washing up, he held hands with Zhao Xueqing and moved to the meeting hall. In the meeting hall, many disciples were present, and they all looked at old ancestor True Dragon and the other 3. The 4 of them looked around arrogantly. Senior brother Tianren, their cultivation seems to be abnormally strong. Are they experts that Master brought from West Earth? Seeing Yi Tianren return, Huaqing Tian went forward and asked. Yes. Yi Tianren nodded. Huaqing Tian's heart tightened, and he lamented, These 4 are too strong. I'm afraid they'll climb ahead of you and senior brother Situ. We can't even compare. Isn't that so? We have to work harder. Zhao Yuankuan also nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of crisis. Tianqing School mostly selected disciples with foundation and nurtured them from the beginning. This way, they could ensure their loyalty and were extremely reliable. But now, it seemed that Master's mindset was changing. These peerless experts had appeared out of nowhere. Everyone's advantage was instantly gone. Zhao Yuankuan and the other 2 giants were all in the middle stage of foundation establishment. Their advancement was already considered fast, but compared to the 4 old monsters, they were immediately dwarfed. Even Situ Xiao and Yi Tianren were too far apart. It would be strange if they didn't feel pressure. Just as they were discussing in low voices, Jiang Tian and his wife arrived. Everyone hurriedly bowed respectfully. Don't stand on ceremony, everyone. Jiang Tian sat down on the altar and glanced at everyone with a smile. You've all done well while I was in West Earth. Zhao Yuankuan, the 3 old grandmasters, Shen Mange, Sasaki, and the others have all advanced. Some have reached the early stage of foundation establishment, surpassing the immortal state. Some have reached the middle stage of foundation establishment, surpassing the sky immortal state. Heavenly Being, Situ Shao, and Huang Linger have advanced the fastest. They've already reached the fake core level. Almost every month, they've broken through a small level. It can be said that your advancement is very surprising and pleasantly surprising. Li Wuji was extremely envious and sighed at his inferiority. Although the Kunlun sect wasn't as good as Tianqing school, it was at least on the same order of magnitude as Tianqing school. But now, it was completely impossible to catch up, especially with the help of the 4 nascent soul cultivators. Any one of them could easily flatten the Kunlun sect. Situ Shao and the others hurriedly bowed and said gratefully, "This is inseparable from the many pills and secret arts that Master gave us. Without Master's help, we would still be suffering and unable to advance further." Many disciples nodded and agreed. Situ Zhao's words were true. As the saying went, even the cleverest housewife can't cook without rice. Even if Jiang Tian originally had many cultivation methods, without cultivation resources, everything would be like a castle in the air, a bubble in a dream, a tree without roots, water without a source. The resources on earth weren't enough, so these disciples still advanced very slowly. They were lucky to advance 2 or 3 small levels in a year. Of course, this speed was shocking in other orthodoxies, even in the Kunlun sect. It was just that Jiang Tian's requirements were higher. However, in the previous stage, Jiang Tian had plundered the heavenly star and the heavenly kingdom. His treasury was full of all kinds of spiritual herbs, and natural treasures. Thus, even though Jiang Tian had not been away for too long, the disciples were still able to achieve breakthroughs at the fastest rate. Now, Tianqing school, excluding Jiang Tian and the 4 nascent soul cultivators, had 3 fake core cultivators, and less than 10 heaven immortals. It was far more than any other orthodoxy in the world. It could be said that there were a lot of talents, blooming flowers, and vitality. Chapter 12:17. Jiang Tian asked again, "By the way, all of you have broken through this time, and many of you have surpassed Foundation Establishment Level 3. Did you trigger the Immortal Trap Array? Were there any strange movements or reactions?" The heaven-deceiving mystic technique that Master taught us is very magical. Our true essence is completely condensed in our dantian, and there is no leakage at all. Everyone said. However, we can still feel the existence of the sealing power. Every time we break through, it's extremely painful. Before Jiang Tian left the sect for West Earth, he had left behind a heaven-deceiving mystic technique for his disciples to cultivate. This technique could conceal the aura of an expert, and it was very magical. It was similar to the thick earth divine chains in that it could avoid the detection and attacks of the immortal trap array. This mystic technique was originally created by Jiang Tian in his previous life to avoid the heavenly tribulation. It was a quasi-immortal emperor-level mystic technique, and it even helped Jiang Tian avoid the calamities of the celestial world and divine world. A mere immortal trap array created by Ao Huang was too primitive and crude, so it was naturally undetectable. Jiang Tian was slightly relieved. He nodded and said, "This can't be helped. The immortal trap array covers the entire world, and the suppression power is always there. It's already very fortunate that no calamity has descended. Sooner or later, I will tear this immortal trap array into pieces and let everyone break through this heaven and earth cage." He raised his head slightly and looked at the deep night sky outside the hall, but his eyes flashed with an imperceptible cold glint. Ao Huang was indeed an outstanding person to be able to set up such a huge array. However, in Jiang Tian's eyes, it was too cynical. You can't exchange for peace by destroying your own future of evolution and development. Ling not only condensed a fake core, but she also cultivated the Yi-Wood immortal body. Her talent is amazing. Seeing Jiang Tian's mind wandering, Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes shone brightly as she praised. Before Jiang Tian went to West Earth, he had cut down a section of the swaying green tree and gave it to Huang Linger as a foundation to nurture her immortal body. Huang Linger was very diligent. She used the Yi-wood body sculpting art that Jiang Tian taught her, as well as countless would attribute spirit pills and precious medicines. She cultivated diligently every day, changing her foundation, tidying her meridians, and washing her bones and marrow. She actually managed to cultivate the Yi-wood immortal body. Although this deity physique was slightly inferior to Qing'er's stainless phoenix deity physique, it was still one of the 12 most powerful deity physiques. With enough spirit qi and resources, the chances of reaching the soul formation, void return, and tribulation transcendence would be greatly increased. Such a body constitution was extremely rare even in the immortal sacred grounds of the immortal realm, let alone in the central galaxy. Once it appeared, it would definitely shock the world. It's all thanks to Mistress's good guidance. I don't have much talent. Wang Lin looked flustered. 2 red clouds appeared on her pretty face as she lowered her head and said, Ling, you don't have to be modest. Your hard work is the most important and fundamental thing. I'm very happy. Jiang Tian came back to his senses and looked down at Wang Lin. His eyes showed a trace of affection and gentleness as he smiled. Wang Lin bit her lips and didn't say anything. Jiang Tian glanced at everyone and said with a smile, during this time, no forces have disturbed Tianqing School. This is inseparable from your hard work. You must understand and remember that only when you are strong, others will fear you and not dare to disturb you. After receiving Jiang Tian's praise, everyone revealed joyful expressions. Shen Mange wrinkled her nose and said softly, it's Master's ferocity that scared them. Who dares to provoke Demon King Jiang? She was only at the late-stage qi refinement stage during the battle at the Lansong River. Now, she was already at the early-stage foundation establishment stage and could be considered an Earth-level deity. Everyone let out a burst of friendly laughter. Hua Qingnan glared at her and scolded in a low voice, how can you talk to Master like that? We're in a meeting. Be serious. There's nothing wrong with being ferocious. Jiang Tian wasn't angry. He smiled faintly. We clearly distinguish between kindness and hatred. If there's a grudge, there's a grudge. When dealing with enemies, we must be as ruthless as the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. Jiang Tian's sect was not as cold and otherworldly as the immortal sections. It was tranquil and otherworldly. However, there was a lot of joy in it. It was lively, and honest. Jiang Tian liked this feeling. Then, Jiang Tian's face became serious and he said solemnly, now, the spirit qi recovery seeds are ready. The 9 dragon spirit summoning array and many spirit creation wells are also ready. The focus of the next period of time is to recover the spirit qi. This work must be completed in 3 months. However, we have to be vigilant against some forces in advance. Fellow Taoist Wuji, Canes, introduced them. Li Wuji and Canes didn't dare to delay. They immediately explained the general situation and all kinds of speculations. A famous preaching sect? The Ghost King of Mount Mang. There really is a dragon in the Dragon Lake of Mount Changbai? After hearing this, everyone was shocked and frightened. They didn't expect that there were so many hidden powerhouses and forces in this world. The forces in the country had a deep foundation and even involved the preaching qi refinement warriors, the War of the Gods, and even the ancient mighty figures. Many of the lost ancient civilizations abroad were even more mysterious and unpredictable. In short, whether it was the hidden forces in Huaxia or abroad, they were all so difficult to deal with. Jiang Tian nodded and said, let's try peaceful means before resorting to force. We'll get in touch with them and announce that Tianqing School is going to recover the spirit qi. Please be prepared. Tianqing School has worked hard to plant the eternal Tao foundation for Earth. Since you've enjoyed the great benefits of the spirit qi, you should join the Myth Alliance and sign an alliance agreement to jointly guard Earth and resist the tyranny of the ruins of immortality. At the very least, you should remain neutral. You can't be enemies with me, Kong Teichu, and attack Tianqing School. Jiang Tian's tone was light, but there was a hint of dominance in it. The Tianqing sect is magnanimous and open-minded. We are not trying to be a lone wolf in the world, but we are trying to develop and grow together with the other forces. We are working hard to continue the civilization of Earth and move forward. Those who show goodwill are our friends. Those who don't agree and don't sign the agreement may be hostile forces. They are very likely to surrender and betray us when the ruins of immortality come. Then don't blame me for being rude. I'll kill them immediately. Master, who dares to disobey? Xianxia raised her chin and snorted disdainfully. You're just the descendant of Yu the Great of Xia, the successor of the Shang dynasty, and the gods. What's the big deal? If you meet my master, you'll die immediately. Not bad. Mange, you're ambitious. Jiang Tian nodded approvingly and said with a chuckle, how about this? You'll be in charge of sending a message to the Yu family in Sisui. I can't do it. At first, Xianxia was quite happy to hear Jiang Tian's praise. But when she heard the latter part, she was so shocked that her face turned pale. Her beautiful eyes widened, and her body trembled. She almost sat on the ground. Devil, you tricked me. That's the Yu family. According to what Taoist Li Wuji said, there might be a golden core overlord in charge. If I go, won't I be courting death? Jiang Tian was taking advantage of the recovery of spirit qi to dominate the world. He wanted to suppress the world's overlords and make them bow to him. Jiang Tian didn't have any selfish motives. Everything he did was for the overall interests of mankind. But those people were proud and arrogant. How could they be willing to bow to Jiang Tian and let Jiang Tian call them ancestral patriarchs? I've taught you for so long. You can't be useless. Jiang Tian smiled and said, last time, you successfully stopped the Holy See and the Brahmin. Not bad. This time, you have to go one step further. I've said it again and again. Cultivation is cultivation, and strength is strength. Cultivation is not the same as strength. In addition to cultivation, strength also depends on the enemy's experience, consciousness, and adaptability. Only in cruel battles can you improve your strength and reach the limit. I'm sure that the heavenly beings and Ling who have followed me to the dimensional world understand this very well. Jiang Tian leaned lazily on the chair and said, besides, I've been in West Earth for so long. It's time for me to have a good rest and accompany my wife. Xianxia pouted her lips, showing a reluctant look. Qinger slapped Jiang Tian's wrist and said with a smile, Mange has just built her foundation. It's still very dangerous for her to go to the Yu family. I think you'd better find a suitable person. Don't mess around. Yes, you're right, madam. I was too reckless. Jiang Tian smiled embarrassedly. Xianxia secretly curled her lips. Master's wife is still the best. She can control you. So what if you dominate the 3 realms? You'll still be obedient when you see Master's wife. If you dare to show off again, Master's wife will twist your ear. Then, Jiang Tian's expression became serious and he immediately gave orders. Almost every major force sent one or several disciples to deliver the letter and make preparations to suppress them. This time, they were mainly targeting the domestic forces. The next step was the overseas part. In addition, the Guardian Alliance of Huaxia also took action. They came to Sidoni Tianqing School and escorted many formation discs and spirit creation wells to the famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia. Jiang Tian gave 5 or 6 orders in a row, covering all aspects, before the entire plan was completed. Finally, the true dragon patriarch showed some anticipation. He bowed and said, My lord, what orders do the 4 of us have? Jiang Tian said with a smile, Your mission is very simple. As followers, support the people who deliver the letter. Yes, my lord. The 4 of them were slightly stunned, but immediately understood and gladly accepted the order. Although their cultivation was strong, they had no achievements in Tianqing School. Naturally, they had to start from scratch and make contributions to convince the public. Haha, I didn't expect these 4 old monsters to also take action. I'm afraid that this time, many famous preaching sects will be crying for their parents. This small blue planet will be turned upside down and the sun and moon will be inverted. Li Wuji looked on coldly. A trace of gloating flashed in his eyes, and a malicious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 12:18. After the meeting, Li Wuji took his leave and returned to the Kunlun sect. Tianqing School sent a private plane to send him back. It was still early. Yi Tianren accompanied Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing for a stroll in the garden. He reported, "Master, I have something to report. Some time ago, Ji Muxian injured Zhan Tian during a daily training session. Now, the original 4 spiritual generals and octatic spectral guards have all been injured and kicked out. The Huaxia Guardians Alliance has completely lost the shadow of the Huaxia Long Formation and the Martial Arts Alliance. It has completely become the territory of the reclusive royalty and the Kunlun sect." Yi Tianren sighed regretfully. "How dare you? How despicable!" Jiang Tian laughed and said coldly, "Senior, you are both Ji Muxian and Ji Muxian. In terms of seniority, you and Ji Muxian are of the same generation. Warsky can only be considered as his junior. Yet he still dared to kill him. Isn't he ashamed? However, this is a problem left behind by history. It was part of Li Wuji's original plan of exchanging the bird in the cage. But now, Li Wuji is indeed loyal to us. I'm afraid it's not easy to make a move. It will show that we are too narrow-minded." Yi Tianren said, "I understand. I'm also looking at the big picture, so I didn't say anything. However, I think Li Wuji also seems to have some selfish motives. We have to be careful. Of course he has. The information he gave us is not comprehensive." Jiang Tian sneered. "In my opinion, the famous Preqin families are not shackled by the immortal trap formation because they live in a small world or a cave. Master, do you mean that even if they leave their own small world, their cultivation is still not suppressed?" Yi Tianren was shocked and his heart skipped a beat. Jiang Tian squinted his eyes and sneered, "That's right. You have to know that the great Xiaozu family was a figure from the same era as Emperor Sheng and Zhongli. During the era of star destruction and the twilight of the gods, Emperor Yu and Emperor Sheng were the representatives of the resistance faction and the escape faction respectively. However, their goal was to preserve the roots and veins of the human civilization on Earth. Do you think that the immortal entrapment formation laid down by the Sheng and Ao sovereigns would imprison the natives of Earth? Isn't that the same as destroying your own martial arts?" Hearing this, Yi Tianren nodded and revealed a worried expression. "Indeed. I'm afraid the same is true for the Kunlun sect. Rumor has it that the history of the Kunlun sect can be traced back to the Preqin dynasty and even the ancient mythological era. Could it be that the core members of the Kunlun sect are also not shackled by the Great Immortal Trap Formation? That's terrifying. Is it safe for the Guardian Alliance to transport the arrays and spirit creation wells?" "Do you think Ji Muxian has the guts to provoke me?" Jiang Tian smiled. "He wouldn't dare. However, he is very likely to incite the Preqin prestigious sects, demons, and spirits to stir up trouble. Then what should we do?" Yi Tianren asked worriedly. "Don't worry." Jiang Tian's face was calm, and he said calmly, "Remember this, heavenly man. A heavy sword without a sharp edge. Schemes and machinations were only for the weak and vile. The strong will never bother with such things. No matter how many schemes and tricks you have, I will break them with a punch. It's best if those small fries like the famous sects of Preqin, the demon race, and the Ghost King jump out. If they jump out, I'll have a good reason to sweep away all the monsters and demons. I'll beat those old demons and clowns until they're crying for their parents and submitting to me completely. We still have to thank Ji Muxian for fanning the flames." "Master, is this the legendary luring the snake out of its hole?" Yi Tianren heard this and nodded with a wry smile. "Don't worry about the recovery of Qi first." Jiang Tian sneered and said with a murderous look, "But don't worry. I, Kong Teichu, will always take revenge. Your Yi family is loyal and devoted to serving the country. They have a clear conscience. Your Yi family is also deeply related to me. Ji Muxian is narrow-minded and full of schemes and tricks. I will not let him off easily, be it for public or private reasons. When he is done with his instigation, I will destroy his reputation and let him die without a complete corpse." "Yes, Master." Yi Tianren bowed. The recovery of spiritual energy was the greatest change in history. Its complexity was unprecedented. The disciples of Tianqing school split into several groups. Some rushed to Wuxia to deliver the subarray discs and spirit creation wells. Some set up the 9 dragons guiding array in Tianqing school. Some discussed with the political leaders of various countries, and some investigated and confirmed the overseas forces with the cooperation of the CIA, the Pentagon, and other intelligence agencies. These days, Jiang Tian's life was very peaceful. Sometimes he played Go with his grandfather, sometimes he teased little Arthur and Wana, and sometimes he guided the disciples in cultivation, alchemy, refining, and so on. But absence makes the heart grow fonder. Jiang Tian spent most of his time with Qing'e, helping her recuperate. Zhao Xueqing's body became healthier and healthier. Her pale face finally became rosy, and a long-lost smile appeared on her face. Jiang Tian, since you have Lei Meng's qi, blood, and demon core, you should go into seclusion as soon as possible. But on this day, when the two of them were taking a walk in the sect garden, she took the initiative to speak. It's been several months since we parted. I want to spend more time with you. Jiang Tian's eyes were so gentle that they could melt the ice of eternity. Perhaps, only in front of Qing'e could he remove the hard and cold armor and reveal his affectionate side. You are in the sect in Sidoni. You are by my side, accompanying me. I feel very at ease and satisfied. Zhao Xueqing held Jiang Tian's hand and said seriously, according to what you said, the ruins of immortal ruins are the ruins of immortal ruins. According to what you said, the ruins emperor of the ruins of immortal is just a lackey puppet of the Southgate twin stars. He is eyeing Earth covetously, and the various multidimensional worlds can attack at any time. You and I have to raise our cultivation as soon as possible to prepare for the unexpected. My pregnancy this time has already delayed you for too long. Without me holding you back, you might have already invaded the ruins of immortal. But I'm worried about you. Jiang Tian touched Qing'e's cheek with his large hand and said, There's nothing to worry about. Qing'e tilted her head slightly, as though she wanted her cheek to be in closer contact with Jiang Tian's large hand. She said, or rather, it's useless for you to worry before the recovery of spirit qi. After all, only the recovery of spirit qi can completely change my physique. It's better to do something meaningful. But this time, I won't cultivate in seclusion for long. I'll be out in a month at most. Jiang Tian frowned and pondered for a moment, but he still agreed. Don't worry. Our immortal wills are intertwined and our minds are connected. I know everything you're thinking. Leave the early stages of the recovery of spirit qi to me. Qing'e smiled gently. Thank you for your hard work. Jiang Tian kissed Qing'e's forehead deeply, then turned around and rushed into the special cultivation room deep inside the sect to cultivate in seclusion. In the system of the ruins of immortal, the ruins emperor and many overlords should have reached the soul formation level. That cultivation room was like a palace. It was tall, wide, and deep. There was nothing else in it except a cushion on the ground. Jiang Tian sat on the top and thought to himself, that's right. Although I have 5 divine bodies and 5 fake elixirs, I might be able to escape unscathed if I encounter a soul formation cultivator, but the odds of winning are slim. I'll only have a higher chance of winning if I have 9 divine bodies and 9 fake elixirs to a divine-grade golden core. I have to have the power to sweep and crush everything before they arrive. Only in this way can I protect my family and Earth from harm. After making up his mind, Jiang Tian immediately started cultivating. Jiang Tian first took out the colorful Thunder Meng's Fey core surrounded by thunderbolts from the sky-swallowing gourd. The Thunder Meng was a connate divine beast. It had been cultivating for 10,000 years and had swallowed countless spirit herbs, nascent soul, and golden cores. Its Fey core contained an enormous amount of thunder energy. Once it exploded, it would be able to destroy mountains and crush continents, comparable to the explosion of several nuclear weapons. As a primer to build a constitution, it could at least form a thunder deity body with a 100% chance of success. But that's not enough. I have to form a thunder divine body and I have to be 100% sure. There can't be any mistakes. Jiang Tian's expression was firm as he thought to himself. Presently, Jiang Tian had already dominated the 3 dimensions and completely plundered the 3 dimensions. The cultivation resources in his possession could be said to be an enormous amount, and there were no lack of lightning attribute resources. Thunder wood, lightning mink bones, sky thunder bamboo, wind thunder grass. Together with 13 kinds of thunder herbs and gems, it's enough to make a dozen thunder pills. These can be used to make up for the lack of thunder energy to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Jiang Tian took out stocks of herbs and spiritual materials. He had collected them from the 3 realms. Jiang Tian had prepared for a long time to form a thunder divine body. He would search for thunder deity bodies everywhere he went. All of these materials had been carefully selected after going through a great process of elimination. Any one of them was priceless and could shock the world and cause an uproar. If Zhang Qianlei were here, he would be so envious that his saliva would flow to his feet. Rise. Jiang Tian raised his hand. Many herbs and spirit herbs flew into the air. A stream of vermilion bird true fire gushed out. It wasn't so hot but was gentle as it wrapped around them. The vermilion bird true fire was stronger than the 36 heavenly fires in the world. It was divided into gentle fire and martial fire. Previously, Jiang Tian used martial fire to kill people. It could melt gold and iron and refine the heavens. It was invincible and invincible. As for gentle fire, it was also wondrous when used to refine pills. Crackle. Jiang Tian was already at the peak of alchemy. With this fire, it was as if he had the help of God. The thunder energy contained in those herbs snaked out and was suppressed by the fire, forming stable thunder energy. After refining 20 thunder-accumulating pills, Zhang Xian's expression changed drastically. Jiang Tian began to devour the Thunder Meng's demonic core and refine it into Thunder True Essence to increase his cultivation and form the Thunder Meng divine body. My demonic core is out? At this time, sensing a familiar aura, the divine soul of Thunder Meng in Jiang Tian's mind woke up and peeked outside. Seeing this scene, the divine soul of Thunder Meng couldn't help but gnash his teeth in hatred. He paced back and forth and prayed with hatred. My demonic core has the most violent energy. I hope that an accident will happen and blow him up alive. He was now a soul and was immediately sensed by the soul devourer in Jiang Tian's mind. It stepped on him and almost shattered him. Brother soul devourer, I'm joking. Don't step on me. Lei Meng screamed miserably. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He controlled his thoughts and looked at the situation outside nervously and expectantly, hoping that Jiang Tian would explode and die. Chapter 12:19. Jiang Tian's dantian opened like a black vortex and swallowed the demonic core of Thunder Meng. Boom! Streaks of violent lightning energy exploded within Jiang Tian's body. This was the supreme astral lightning. Jiang Tian's body started to shake violently. The surface of his body also started to emit several zhanglong lightning bolts. They were like silver snakes dancing in the air. But it quickly stabilized. It didn't explode. His divine body is too strong. It doesn't make sense. A mere mortal, a mere ant, can suppress the power of my demonic core. The divine soul of Thunder Meng was dumbfounded and his face was full of regret. He could feel that Jiang Tian was using the 5 godly bodies to forcibly confine the unstable thunder and lightning power. This was unimaginable. Clang! A giant black foot stomped down, and the divine soul of Thunder Meng was crushed into pieces. The divine body he had finally condensed was dimmer than before, but he didn't dare to peek out anymore. He curled up in a corner like a cat and hummed to comfort himself. Humph, what's so great about that? After all, you're from a small place. When I dominated the Thunderlock realm, you weren't even born yet. I won't lower myself to your level. What's so great about a golden core? I'll give it to you. Later, I'll take over another body and refine a few more golden cores. I'll make you jealous. No matter how violent the lightning is, it's still energy and matter. Next, I will use the creation of all living things' mysterious art to peel, decompose, and condense this thunder energy into my main body's thunder element true origin. Then I will use the 9 transformations mysterious art to condense my divine body. Jiang Tian's divine sense was focused on cultivating, and he didn't care about what the divine soul of Thunder Meng was thinking. In his Dan Tian, crack crack, a sound rang out. Like a ball of string, the demonic core was pulled into soft and obedient lightning threads. The demonic core of Thunder Meng decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye. And within Jiang Tian's body, there was more and more lightning-attributed quintessential essence, and his cultivation soared. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Half a month passed. The crafting room Jiang Tian was in had been reinforced with a lightning protection array, but from time to time, lightning would burst out, and a lightning aura would slowly condense. This aura was extremely violent and ferocious. It was full of a terrible aura that could destroy and kill everything. It was as if a primitive thunder beast was awakening. Anyone who appeared in Tianqing school would stay far away from it. They were careful and did not dare to approach it. While Jiang Tian was cultivating in seclusion, trying to sublimate himself, an earth-shattering piece of news came out. It was as if Mars had collided with Earth. The news had already spread throughout the secular world and the cultivation world, causing a huge uproar. The entire world was shocked and in an uproar. First, the United Nations released some of the images of Jiang Tian entering the 3-dimensional worlds and fighting with the experts there. Oh my God! It turns out that there is such a powerful civilization around us. This is a movie special effect, right? The people who saw these scenes were shocked. They didn't dare to believe it. It was as if the door to a new world had been opened. In the video, there were ferocious monsters whose wings covered the sky. They were faster than lightning and spat out flames that could burn the sky. There were perfected immortals of the Golden Core realm who were powerful enough to destroy mountains and the earth with a single attack. Their lethality was comparable to that of nuclear weapons. There were Changshan sects who disregarded human relations and fed on flesh and blood just to sublimate and evolve and find a new place to live. Of course, it was more about Jiang Tian's invincible heroism. In fact, every time Jiang Tian entered a new world, he would record a video with a camera. Some were recorded by himself, and some were recorded by his companions. His purpose was for today. He wanted the humans on Earth to realize that these threats were not far away, but close at hand. If they didn't give up their fantasies, if they weren't vigilant, didn't pay attention, and didn't actively respond, then the humans on Earth would inevitably attract a disaster. Of course, this was also Jiang Tian's warning. He no longer hid his strength. He wanted to let the humans understand that now, all forces and forces must unite around him, Kang Teichu, and wage war against the ruins of immortality. It's too terrifying. It turns out that the visitors from West Earth aren't the most powerful ones. Countless people's hearts palpitated to the extreme, and cold sweat rolled down their foreheads. The whole world was filled with a sorrowful and desperate atmosphere, as if it was covered by a huge dark cloud. Last time, when Arhat Taming Dragon invaded West Earth, the government also released the news. However, in order to avoid panic and pessimism, they still held back. It was only a 1-minute video, but this time, it was a full 1.5 hours long. It introduced the situation of the civilizations in the 3 dimensions in detail. It was an extremely detailed documentary. In fact, the creator of this documentary was the director of Dolphin Bay and the director of Crying Sidonie, Bibu Bay. During the battle between Sidonie and France, the director who won the support of the world for Sidonie was Louis Sihoyas. In addition to the footage shot by Jiang Tian, the producer also interviewed a large number of military scientists, anthropologists, and other famous scholars to describe the possible impact of the dimensional worlds. The whole world was shocked. What should we do? How should we deal with this kind of civilization? 4 billion people in the world trembled with uneasiness. Their hearts were filled with despair and fear. America, Hilton Manor. Night fell. On the open-air lawn, the Hilton family was sitting on armchairs and sofas, watching the news and documentaries through the home theater. Paris was already married. Her husband was a popular young actor from Wuxia, and they had already given birth to a cute daughter. However, if one paid attention, they would discover that this popular young actor looked 80% similar to Jiang Tian. Perhaps, in everyone's heart, there was a corner that no one knew about, where there was a gentleness that they couldn't reach. Since this gentleness couldn't be reached, they could only bury it deep in their hearts and replace it with someone else. After all, Man couldn't stop in life. She could only move forward. "Mom, are we going to die?" The 4-year-old daughter was as cute as a doll. She nestled in Paris's arms and looked at the shocking and terrifying scene. Her pure and clear eyes were filled with deep fear. Sensing that her daughter's frail body was trembling, Paris squatted down and kissed her daughter's forehead. She smiled and said, "Don't worry. Don't you see? We still have a powerful hero. He will protect Earth and us. Just cultivate. I will remember his name." Little Paris showed deep admiration and said innocently, "But is he real? Maybe he's just a fictional character like Superman and Harry Potter? Of course it's real. I even know him. Do you believe me?" Paris took out the latest Apple phone, opened a photo, and showed it to her daughter. She smiled and said, "Baby, Mommy used to be his closest comrade. But later, he had to save the world and didn't have time to accompany me." Wow. So Mommy knows the world's greatest hero, the savior. Mommy is so amazing. Little Paris's clear and beautiful eyes widened. She couldn't believe it and screamed exaggeratedly. Humph, back then, it was Mommy who took over the Gua family's assets in Singapore. Just as Paris was about to brag proudly, her daughter ran into the house. She saw her daughter running into the villa. When she came back, she had a cute Snoopy piggy bank in her hand. "Mommy, this is all my assets. It was originally used to buy shares of the family company. Now, please give it to Kong Tae-chu." The little girl handed over the piggy bank with both hands solemnly. "Baby, Kong Tae-chu is a hero. Now you are also a hero." Paris took the piggy bank and smiled sweetly. Her heart of stone, which had been hardened by years of fighting in the business world, manipulating politics, scheming, actually rippled, and she felt a strong sense of warmth and emotion. "But how can I be a hero?" the little girl asked in surprise. Paris stood up and held the little girl's little hand. She looked at the infinite deep starry sky, her beautiful face exuding a holy light, and said softly, "Every warrior who fights for the continuation of the civilization of mankind and contributes their strength to the defense of this planet is our savior and our hero." Chapter 12:20. 10 days later. No matter where fate leads the fate of humans on Earth, we have decided to choose hope. In order to deal with the threat of the dimensional worlds that may come, humans on Earth will revive the spirit energy and choose to evolve and strengthen themselves to deal with and surpass the powerhouses of the dimensional worlds. In the United Nations building, Keynes announced loudly in front of the reporters. Many people were immediately stunned. To them, these nouns were completely foreign and unheard of. There are many signs that ancient Earth used to be a brilliant cultivation planet, until the arrival of planet destruction. The Global Defense Alliance immediately released the white paper on the revival of spirit energy and human coevolution, explaining most of the information that had been obtained. The revival of spirit energy may lead to the evolution of all creatures and awaken the ancient bloodline. Creatures will have many possibilities such as atavism, mutation, evolution, and so on. This includes ordinary beasts, domestic animals, and beasts that will evolve into monsters. It also includes climate change, geological change. The Global Defense Alliance, the United Nations, and Tianqing School were very open and honest, announcing all possible crises. This was the stance of many major countries around the world. They had reached a high level of consensus. Various countries and various defense and refuge camps were also being built. The buildings in the cities were also being reinforced to guard against possible great changes. However, at this time, different news came from some cultivator forums and dimensional world forums. The revival of spirit energy is equivalent to humans destroying their own civilization. Once ordinary beasts evolve into monsters, How many ordinary people will be sacrificed? Kong Teichu is clearly being generous. After all, Kong Teichu and Tianqing School are already the #1 orthodoxy on Earth. Of course, they are safe. However, who will be responsible for the lives of those ordinary people who died? Some people spoke like this, with strong words, reprimanding Jiang Tian as the scourge of mankind. They immediately received the support of many people, with tens of thousands or even millions of comments, and new posts were constantly being posted. That's right, Jiang Taichu will consign the human race to eternal damnation. After tens of thousands of years of arduous development, mankind has technology and civilization, and finally stands at the peak of this blue planet, at the top of the food chain. However, Kong Teichu only needs one day to return mankind to the barbaric era where wild beasts run rampant. Humans will become the rations of pigs and dogs. Soon, these news and debates spread to Weibo, and some popular celebrities and fresh meat complained in tears. I suspect that the dimensional world doesn't exist at all. As for these images, nowadays, computer special effects were so powerful that it was not difficult to create them. Who can verify its authenticity? America? The United States is just Kong Teichu's lackey. The content presented in the video was too exaggerated. What was a golden core? This attack was comparable to a small nuclear weapon. I don't think anyone with a normal mind and logic would believe it. This was all part of Kong Teichu's grand scheme. As for what he wants to achieve by fabricating these lies, I'm afraid only he knows. There were also online celebrities who were fans of conspiracy theories chatting with their fans in the livestream. They spoke with certainty and didn't believe in the existence of dimensional worlds. It must be fake news. According to the Tianqing school, Emperor Sheng and the ruins of immortality existed tens of thousands of years ago, and they were around the same time as Yu the Great. This didn't match the history books at all. Yu the Great of Xia was just a person and a dynasty from 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. This directly pushed back the Hua-Xia civilization by tens of thousands of years. Does he have any knowledge of history? An old historian from the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties project also came out to speak, lambasting Jiang Tian. For a time, all kinds of news were stirred up. A human historian from Harvard University commented in an interview with a reporter. For a time, many people were questioning Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school's conspiracy. After all, in many people's eyes, Kong Teichu was notorious. If they can't even deal with the monsters on Earth, how can they deal with the powerhouses of the ruins of immortality? But at this time, the Tianqing school released another piece of news. Everyone could download it, everyone could spread it, and everyone could cultivate it. When the news came out, the world was in an uproar. Especially the cultivation world, they were even more shocked. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets in disbelief. Since the beginning of time, every sect had always treated the secret manuals as their final trump card, the existence at the bottom of the box. But Kong Teichu actually made it public. In the base of the Hua-Xia Guardians Alliance in Yanjing. In a luxurious barack that looked like a villa. Zhu Shaochen, Li Guangkou, Ji Mingchuan, Ying Su Yuhui, and the others were sitting around a computer table. Zhu Shaochen, hurry up. This news is too important. I don't know if it's true or not. Li Guangkou urged anxiously. Originally, after the establishment of the Hua-Xia Guardians Alliance, the Kunlun sect changed the cage. In just a few months, the main leaders were all replaced by the reclusive royalty and the disciples of the Kunlun sect. The old generals such as Yi Zhantian were gradually marginalized. They twisted into a rope and did not agree with Jiang Tian at all. The Hua-Xia Guardians Alliance could be said to be the puppet and agent of the Kunlun sect in the mortal world. As for the experts of the hidden royal family, who were originally suppressed by Jiang Tian to the point where they could not raise their heads, now that they had the backing of the Kunlun sect, they seemed to be able to straighten their backs a lot. They did not put the experts of the world in their eyes at all. After all, the Kunlun sect was too powerful. It was called the ancestral court of Taoism, the origin of all cultivation methods, and the ancestor of thousands of sections. Even if Jiang Tian had 5.5 hidden sects, In terms of strength and heritage, even if combined, they were far inferior to the Kunlun sect. But they did not expect Jiang Tian to do this. Too many people have visited and these websites have crashed. I heard that the number of downloads has exceeded 100 million. Zhu Xiaochen said gloomily. At this moment, Yi Hui looked at his phone and suddenly exclaimed, "My high school classmate group has spread the news. All the files have been uploaded. Quick, 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 send it to our group." Ji Mingchuan urged. Yi Hui did not dare to delay and hurriedly did as he was told. "If you ask me, it must be Kong Teichu fishing for fame. Are you willing to publicize your family's cultivation methods?" Zhu Xiaochen's face was full of disdain as he sneered and snorted. "If you ask me, I think so too. He wants the spirit qi revival and the public is agitated. There are many opponents, so he naturally wants to appease the people, but how could he be willing to take out his trump card?" Li Guangkou also said the same. It was unknown whether he was comforting himself or mocking Jiang Tian. A moment later, Yi Hui finished uploading the files and Zhu Xiaochen immediately downloaded them on the computer for everyone to see. They naturally did not bother to read the letters Jiang Tian sent to the people of the world. Anyway, they were just high profile and had no value. This name is really not cool at all. Zhu Xiaochen directly clicked on the basic body tempering and qi cultivation method first set and smiled with a face full of contempt. However, when everyone saw it, they were suddenly dumbfounded. The smile on their faces froze and they could no longer laugh. They were all the mainstays of the cultivation world in Wuxia. As the young generation's talents, they naturally had good eyesight. At a glance, they could see that this set of cultivation methods was very simple and clear. Even an 8-year-old child could understand it, but it was also extremely profound and powerful. Compared with this set of cultivation methods, their ancestral cultivation methods and secret manuals that they worshipped suddenly became trash, stinking, and worthless. Jiang Tian's set of cultivation methods was very simple, but it was born out of the supreme cultivation method, the 3 pure foundation technique. Once cultivated, the speed would be more than 10 times faster than theirs. In short, a person with no cultivation base, as long as he cultivated this set of cultivation methods, replenished his nutrition, and absorbed the spirit qi of heaven and earth, within 3 years, there was hope for him to reach the middle level of qi refinement and be on par with their strength. After 3 years, he would leave them far behind. What about the basic fist technique? Li Guangkou finished browsing. As soon as he opened his mouth, he found that his voice was particularly dry and hoarse. Chapter 12:21. Everyone looked at it. The basic fist technique was very simple. There were a total of 9 moves, but after careful design, the moves could be combined and switched at will, instantly turning into endless moves. If combined with true origin qi, it would explode with endless power. Suddenly, Zhu Xiaochen's expression changed drastically. His body trembled slightly, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Xiaochen, what's wrong with you?" Everyone's expression changed drastically. "I tried to circulate my ancestral qi. It won't work. I'm suffering from a backlash." Zhu Xiaochen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His face was pale and twisted. Everyone could not help but grumble inwardly. Sure enough, according to the Tianqing school's technique, their qi would either circulate very slowly or collide randomly. It seemed that those techniques were not suitable for martial artists to circulate their qi. If martial artists wanted to cultivate, they would have to start from scratch. "That Jiang guy is a scammer. Fuck you." After realizing that, everyone cursed in their hearts. They were furious and hated Jiang Tian to the core. They had already occupied an advantageous position. They were the young talents and mainstays of Wuxia. It was like a marathon. They were leading by a large margin and were about to reach the finish line and win the championship. However, Jiang Tian suddenly jumped out and announced that the competition was over. Everyone had to return to the starting line and start over. More importantly, Jiang Tian gave them training manuals and stimulants for free. They could not use those things. "By the way, Mingchuan, Isn't your father studying the technique of transforming our qi into true origin qi? Why haven't we heard from him yet? Zhu Xiaochen turned his head and glared at Ji Mingchuan. He no longer had the respect he had in the past. Instead, he seemed to be questioning him. Back then, Li Wuji and Ji Muxian's original plan was to use the guardians of Huaxia to weaken Jiang Tian's foundation in Huaxia and replace Jiang Tian's cooperation with the authorities of Huaxia. To a certain extent, they had already succeeded. Now that the Huaxia Long formation no longer existed, Yi Zhantian and the other old generals were gradually marginalized. The core of the group was occupied by the Kunlun disciples and the reclusive royalty. Moreover, many young experts of the hidden royal family had also joined the Kunlun sect. In other words, the League of Guardians was the representative of the Kunlun sect in the secular world, or rather, a branch of the sect. However, there was a hidden problem that had never been solved. Even among the reclusive royal family, most of them were martial artists, not cultivators. The Kunlun sect, on the other hand, was a pre-Qin Qi cultivation method. If they wanted to practice the cultivation methods of the Kunlun sect, they needed a suitable conversion method to convert their genuine Qi into vital essence. Otherwise, he would have to start all over again. Unfortunately, the Kunlun sect did not have any suitable methods. Until now, they had not completed the conversion. Old Zhu, I am your eldest senior brother. How dare you question me like this? Ji Mingchuan was so angry that his whole body trembled. He said coldly, conversion method is not something that can be created overnight. However, Lady Wu has already cultivated vital essence after she came back this time. She has reached the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment realm. I heard that it was Kong Teichu who taught her the conversion method. Yi Karen also, Yi Hui said gloomily. Hearing this, everyone's face darkened. It turned out that when they were suppressed by Jiang Tian, they were more or less unconvinced. They rebuilt the League of Guardians and thought that with the Kunlun sect as their backing, they did not take Jiang Tian seriously. They even ostracized Lady Wu who supported Jiang Tian. They also looked down on Lady Wu from the bottom of their hearts, thinking that she would be punished for standing on the wrong side. But now, Lady Wu had returned from West Earth and was soaring in the sky, making it impossible for them to catch up. It was a slap in the face. Are we really going to succumb to Kong Teichu and the Tianqing school? Is he really going to become the dictator of this planet? Everyone was sad and unwilling to accept it. Only Ji Mingchuan shook his head and snorted. There are a lot of hidden forces and peerless overlords in this world that Kong Teichu doesn't know about. Kong Teichu wants to control this world? He's too weak. Hearing this, everyone was surprised. Ying Su frowned and asked, Senior brother, what do you mean? Is there anyone in this world who can suppress Kong Teichu? Don't you know about the famous Qi refinement sects in the pre-Qin dynasty? Ji Mingchuan let out a faint smile as if victory was already within his grasp. They are not inferior to the Kunlun sect and the Yu family of Great Xia. Like the overlords of the ruins of immortality, they came from the ancient times and are extremely powerful. It's just that they haven't come out of seclusion for various reasons. If they come out of seclusion, how can Kong Teichu resist them? Qi refinement warriors of the pre-Qin dynasty? Everyone's expression changed drastically as they exclaimed. Their roots and veins still exist. Kong Teichu rashly awakened the spirit energy this time. I'm afraid he's going to kick an iron plate. They were very shocked. The famous pre-Qin families were the Yu family of Great Xia, the Yin family of Yinshang, the Ji family of Great Zhou, and so on. The founder of the Great Xia dynasty, Yu the Great, was rumored to be a Qi refinement warrior from the same era as the founder of the ruins of immortality system. Many people speculated that Yu the Great was a firm defender and a rebel, while the ruins of immortality and the various multidimensional worlds were a fugitive. It was very likely that Yu the Great had experienced the Battle of Immortals and participated in the battle against the extraterrestrial invaders. The battle between Yinshang and the Great Zhou dynasty was the famous investiture war. Countless powerhouses emerged and their magic treasures were earth-shattering and dazzling to the extreme. It could be said that the rulers of these 3 dynasties were too powerful and could be on par with the Kunlun sect, or even surpass them. Moreover, they had many vassals and existences of the same era. That's right. They will definitely forcefully stop Kong Teichu from awakening the spirit energy. This involves many secrets. It's not convenient to tell you now. With his hands behind his back, Ji Mingchuan swept his gaze over the crowd and said arrogantly, Mingchuan, I heard that you are the descendant of the founder of the great Zhou dynasty, King Wen of Zhou, Jichang. Is that true? Yi Yuhui's heart skipped a beat. Her face was full of anticipation as she asked with her beautiful eyes shining. At this point, I won't hide it from you anymore. Ji Mingchuan said proudly with his hands behind his back. I am the descendant of Ji Chang. Many of our Ji family members are in the Kunlun sect because Jiang Taigong, who assisted the Ji family in overthrowing Yinshang, was a disciple of Kunlun. Actually, his words were half true and half false. There was a lot of exaggeration and he seemed to be raising his status. It was true that he was the descendant of Ji Chang. However, the Ji clan had gone through an endless history and had many descendants. His lineage had long deviated from the main branch of the family and belonged to the side branch. It was very difficult for him to talk to the head of the Ji family. However, when they heard this, they were all envious and excited. They looked at Ji Mingchuan in a new light. Everyone pleaded with expectant faces, Senior Mingchuan, bring us to meet them. Yes, bring us to meet them. Yi Yuhui hugged Ji Mingchuan's arm and acted coquettishly. She rubbed her full chest and her face was full of flattery. Mingchuan, I think we should unite the famous preaching sects. Otherwise, with Kong Teichu's fierce, vengeful, mean and ungrateful personality, do you think Kong Teichu won't take revenge on us for the little tricks we did to the Long Formation? Even Ying Su, who had always been arrogant, was moved. There was a hint of pleading in his eyes. The Yu family of Great Xia, named Yu the Great, was a famous descendant of the Yellow Emperor. They controlled the prehistoric flood and divided the 9 states. They built the 9 cauldrons at the Tushan Conference and suppressed Huaxia. Legend had it that they existed in the ancient mythological era before the spirit Qi withered. They might have even participated in the shocking battle of immortals and experienced the twilight of the gods. The royal family of Yinshang and Great Zhou had launched the famous Battle of Gods. That was the final radiance of the human cultivation civilization on Earth after the spirit Qi withered. It was a glorious era where the stars shone brightly and the sages and mighty figures appeared together. The mighty figures at that time were rumored to be able to turn the world upside down with a raise of their hands. They could move mountains and fill seas with a wave of their hands. They had the power to move mountains and rivers and destroy cities and countries. These famous preaching sects had a very deep foundation. Their descendants had the purest preaching cultivation techniques, as well as many magical treasures and magical items passed down from the ancient mythological era and the investiture of the gods. Their overall strength was unimaginably strong. Reclusive royalty couldn't be compared to them at all. Perhaps even Kong Teichu would pale in comparison and admit defeat. Who wouldn't want to be friends with such a descendant of a preaching sage and such a famous Qi refinement sect? This was extremely attractive to anyone, and it was the most fatal temptation. Okay. After pondering for a moment, Ji Mingchuan nodded and agreed. He put his hands behind his back and said calmly, I heard that the Preaching Research Institute is going to have an unprecedented grand gathering. Even the famous young master of the Yu family of Great Xia, Yu Jingtian, will come. I'll do you a favor and take you to see the world. So, the Preaching Research Institute is the base of the preaching sects in the secular world. Everyone was shocked and came to a sudden realization. The Preaching Research Institute. It was the most mysterious organization that had risen in recent years. Even they didn't know its background. Chapter 12:22. The Preaching Building. It was made up of 5 themed buildings. The tallest one was shaped like the head of a dragon and the other 4 were like the body and tail of a dragon. Overall, it looked like a giant dragon. It was obviously against the rules to build such a magnificent building in such a political and business core area. It also showed that they had a strong background and powerful connections. In fact, The Preqin building and the research institute were the meeting places of the 3 Qi refinement cultivators. Of course, it was also supported by a top political and business force in Wuxia, who controlled the appointment of officials. Night fell. On the rooftop of the building, a luxurious private helicopter slowly circled and landed on the apron. In Wuxia, low-altitude flying was the most strictly controlled. In such a heavily guarded political and business core area, the other party's power and status were obvious. It could be said that only a handful of people in Wuxia dared to do such a thing. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. The door opened and a young man with long hair tied in a ponytail, wearing a Taoist robe and a silk belt around his waist, walked out of the helicopter. This ancient attire made him look like a jade tree in the wind. In addition to his handsome face and ethereal temperament, he gave people a strange feeling that he was not a man of this world. Behind him followed a string of men and women with extraordinary bearings. The eyes of the men shot out bright lights while their auras were deep and profound. Some had imposing auras that were swift and fierce like a sword, some were steady like a rock that couldn't be shaken, some possessed peerless imperial might and strict laws, and they possessed the aura of someone who had been in a high position for a long time. The women were as beautiful as paintings and carried long swords on their backs. They looked down with disdain, like a peerless swordswoman from a TV series. It was Ji Mingchuan with Ying Su, Zhu Shaochen and Li Guangko. Everyone walked over with a majestic gait, looking around with pride and arrogance. Everyone they met along the way lowered their heads to greet them. Ji Mingchuan, the son of Ji Muxian, the sect master of the Kunlun sect. I heard that he has reached the first level of the foundation establishment and can be considered a mortal deity. Some guards discussed. He's not bad. However, the reclusive royalty around us is far inferior. They are merely martial artists. Immortal realm martial artists can't even withstand a single blow. Another guard said with a look of disdain. If these words were to spread to the outside world, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Everyone would be endlessly shocked and unable to accept this. Reclusive royalty was no longer what it used to be. It had already been valued and revered by the officials of Wuxia. Whether it was in the secular world or the world of cultivation, it was extremely famous. It was regarded as a pillar of the country and an irreplaceable pillar of the country. However, from the mouth of an ordinary guard, he actually said, "A mere martial artist, unable to withstand a single blow." This tone was simply too arrogant. If it weren't for the fact that the Preqin Qi refinement sects were in dire need of manpower, even the crowing of chickens and the thievery of dogs would have been put on the table. I'm afraid these small fries won't even have the chance to enter the building. Unexpectedly, not only did the guard who spoke earlier not criticize him, he even agreed with him. They didn't try to lower their voices as if they didn't mind the crowd hearing them. Are the 3 Qi refinement clans of the Preqin dynasty so domineering? Even a few guards dared to speak so disrespectfully, looking down on everyone. Zhu Shaochen was extremely indignant. He looked back at the two of them and pushed his energy to suppress them, wanting to teach them a lesson. "Shaochen, don't be rash." Seeing this, Ji Mingchuan was shocked. He wanted to stop him, but he couldn't. It was already too late. With a loud rumble, an invisible wave of air pushed out like a raging wave crashing against the shore. It was at least 10 times stronger than Zhu Shaochen's aura. In an instant, Zhu Shaochen was sent flying dozens of meters away like a rag doll and fell to the ground like a dead dog. Zhu Shaochen only felt that his ribs were almost broken. The blood in his chest surged and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. But compared to the pain, he was more frightened, shocked, and deeply frustrated in his heart. This guard had the strength of a human immortal, just like him. But the other party's energy was more condensed. Against him, it was like smashing tofu with a hammer. He was also a Qi refinement warrior, which was also a cultivator. A mere guard had the strength of a human immortal, a cultivator. It was obvious how terrifying the Preqin dynasty's famous clans were. And he couldn't even defeat one of their guards. Realizing this, Zhu Shaochen could no longer be arrogant or haughty. She only felt a deep sense of fear and defeat. "Oh, young man, why did you fall?" Did you step on a banana peel? After the attack, the guard's aura was still extremely stable. It was obvious that he still had energy left. There was disdain and ridicule in his eyes as he asked with a smile. I was careless. Thank you for your concern, brother guard. Zhu Shaochen got up with a face full of shame. He suppressed his anger and didn't dare to flare up at all. The guard ignored him and looked at Ji Mingchuan with a serious expression. Mingchuan Zongzi, you're the descendant of the Ji family. It's only right for the young master to let you in. But you've already put everyone in a difficult position by bringing these friends. That's right. Thank you for making an exception. Even facing a guard here, Ji Mingchuan didn't dare to be negligent. He cupped his fists and smiled apologetically. Naturally, he was not afraid of these guards, but the masters behind them, those legendary existences, were not people he dared to provoke. Mingchuan comes here often and knows the rules. But I still have to remind these people. The guard nodded slightly. He looked at Ing Su and the others and warned coldly. The standards of this conference are extremely high. Those who come are all important figures. You can go in, but pay attention to your identity. Don't walk around carelessly. Be careful with your words and actions. If you offend the distinguished guests, it will be difficult to explain. It will be difficult for me to explain, and it will be difficult for Mingchuan Zongzi to explain as well. The few disciples of the reclusive royalty were shocked and angry when they heard that. Their faces were red with shame. The guard's warning was full of threat. He almost said that if they dared to mess around, he would break their legs. The reclusive imperial family was now extremely heavily relied on and supported by the government. Even the powerful officials of the border and the old generals on the battlefield had to be courteous when they saw them. They treated them cautiously and did not dare to slight them. But now, a guard of the famous Preqin family threatened and warned them. This was the greatest insult and disrespect. At this moment, Ing Su clenched his fists so tightly that they cracked. His eyes were almost spitting fire. He wanted to use his long spear to pierce through the building's door. But in the end, under Ji Mingchuan's warning gaze, he suppressed his anger and bowed deeply with cupped fists. I understand. Among the many disciples of the reclusive royalty, his cultivation was the strongest. Even though he was at the Earth Immortal realm, he didn't have the confidence to suppress this guard. After all, he was a Preqin Chi refinement warrior and he couldn't compare to him at all. Besides, even if he had a slight chance of winning, so what if he won? He just won against a guard. Besides, he might suffer the revenge of the famous Preqin Chi refinement warrior families. But if he lost, it would be humiliating. Don't worry, we will abide by the rules. Seeing that among them, Ing Su, who had the strongest cultivation and the most unyielding character, lowered his head, the other members of the royal family didn't dare to resist. They all nodded and promised. At this moment, they were all sad in their hearts. They thought that although they couldn't be on equal terms with the Preqin Chi refinement warrior families, they would at least show some respect on the surface. But unexpectedly, the other party simply treated them like ants and didn't even show them the surface courtesy. Even the guard dared to arrogantly warn and threaten them. The guard nodded and waved his hand as if he was driving away flies, indicating that they could enter. Everyone entered the sightseeing elevator. They all had their own thoughts and didn't say a word. The atmosphere was silent and oppressive. Ji Mingchuan looked at the gorgeous street outside and smiled. Ing Su, you can't stand it? Ing Su clenched his fists and didn't answer. Ing Su, don't be angry. This is the truth of the cultivation world. The strong are respected and the weak are ants. Ji Mingchuan encouraged and comforted him. If you can't stand it, if you have the ambition, perform well and get cultivation techniques, resources and dharma treasures from them. I believe that one day, you will catch up and surpass them. Ing Su didn't say a word. No one knew what he was thinking. Don't be discouraged, everyone. Ji Mingchuan glanced at everyone and smiled. This guard is already at the level of a human immortal. It shows how powerful the Preqin Chi refinement warriors are. This is a great opportunity for us. Senior brother Mingchuan is right. That's right. Except for Ing Su, Everyone turned around and looked excited and expectant. Maybe the Preqin Qi refinement warrior families have a technique to convert true Qi into true essence. Then we will have a meteoric rise. Everyone's speculation was not without reason. It was said that whether it was the spells or martial arts that were popular today, they were all simplified versions of the Preqin Qi refinement cultivation techniques. All the skills in the world originated from the Preqin dynasty. The Preqin Qi refinement cultivation techniques were their origin. As the direct descendants of the Preqin Qi refinement warriors, Yu Jingtian and the rest most likely had a technique to convert true Qi into true essence. Only Ying Su shook his head gently with a complicated look in his eyes. Did they have to be the dogs of the Preqin dynasty in order to obtain these legacies? What was the point of that? Although Kang Taichu was arrogant, he was generous. As long as they were loyal to him, Jiang Tian would treat them as his own. He valued friendship and loyalty. His disciples were indebted to him, and he was both a teacher and a friend. He would never put on airs. Everyone had their own thoughts as they followed Ji Mingchuan into a simple and majestic hall filled with an imposing aura. Ji Mingchuan walked up quickly and bowed deeply to a young man in a long robe who was sitting in the middle of the stage. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Ji Mingchuan of the Kunlun sect greets young Master Yu." Everyone looked at him curiously. This young master was tall and burly. He sat on a jade chair with dragons and phoenixes carved on it like a dragon. His back was straight and his aura was majestic like a mountain. His long hair was draped over his shoulders and his eyebrows were slanted. His eyes were sharp and majestic. He gave off a dignified and inviolable feeling. He was chatting cheerfully with a few descendants of the Preqin families. As he glanced around, he exuded an awe-inspiring aura. His powerful aura suppressed everyone present. "I've long heard that Yu Jingtian has the looks of a mighty leader. Now that I see it, it's true." Everyone realized that this must be the descendant of Emperor Yu of the Great Xia dynasty and the current young master of the Yu family, Yu Jingtian. Chapter 12:23. Even though they were all above the immortal state, they still felt as if they were facing a primordial beast under Yu Jingtian's suppression. Feeling that their opponent's power was unfathomable, they couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. They bowed slightly and didn't dare to underestimate him. Yu Jingtian was chatting with a lean young man next to him. He didn't look away until the conversation ended. He glanced at Ji Mingchuan and said, "Mingchen, you're a bit late. We were discussing Kang Taichu's spirit Qi recovery, so we're a bit late." Ji Mingchuan looked a bit uneasy. "Have a seat." Yu Jingtian smiled. "Thank you, young Master Yu." Ji Mingchuan thanked him and sat down, but Ying Su and the other members of the reclusive royalty could only stand behind him. In fact, although there were many people in the meeting room, most of them were standing solemnly. Only Yu Jingtian and a few descendants of the top sects sat on the stage. Ji Mingchuan and a dozen leaders of the Preqin Qi practitioner families sat below the stage. The others didn't even have the right to sit, even if they had the reclusive royalty. Some of the elites on the stage were as unfathomable as the ocean, some were as stable as Mount Tai, and some were ethereal like fairies. Even the weakest among them was more powerful than Ji Mingchuan and had reached the late stage of the foundation establishment level. Yu Jingtian's stern eyes scanned the surroundings as he smiled. "Kang Taichu is spreading cultivation arts to recover spirit Qi. What do you think? Let's have a chat." "Brother, isn't he a bit too aggressive and reckless?" On Yu Jingtian's left side, a beautiful and elegant lady with an otherworldly temperament spoke up with a cold sneer. When the ancient grand cultivators were invaded by the overlords from other planets, they came up with the bunker plan and set up the deity trap array. The bunker plan was essentially a declaration of peace to the entire universe. It told the alien races that Earth's spirit Qi was exhausted and the deity trap array was like a cage that enveloped Earth. They couldn't reach the third level of the foundation establishment level and couldn't form a strong cultivation civilization. They couldn't pose a threat to the alien races and civilizations. Therefore, they wouldn't attack Earth. The genius disciple of the Yu clan, Yu Fenghua, Ji Mingchuan looked at this woman with deep admiration and admiration in his eyes. She was the only woman sitting on the stage. Although she was beautiful and otherworldly, she was extremely powerful and had a meticulous mind. She was extremely resourceful. She was known as the Wise One among the famous Qi practitioners of the Preqin dynasty. The Yu family swept through many ancient tribes and suppressed many true godlike mighty sages, establishing the Great Xia Empire. After a long period of time, they had spread their branches and leaves. They were full of talents and had countless outstanding disciples. However, Yu Jingtian treated her as his right-hand woman. Clearly, she was not an ordinary woman. Yu Fenghua's eyes glinted with wisdom as he said coldly, "However, once Kang Teichu does that, it will be tantamount to destroying the bunker plan. Earth will be overflowing with spiritual energy, and the confinement of heaven and earth will be torn apart. I'm afraid that many powerful civilizations in the depths of the universe will come to Earth to plunder and start a war." Once she said that, many disciples of the reclusive royalty looked at this woman in shock and felt that they were inferior. They listened even more attentively. The topic they were talking about was completely different from what they used to talk about: cultivation, status and power, and fighting for control of the cultivation world in Wuxia. Instead, it involved ancient secrets, the power struggle of the Preqin dynasty, the threat of space, the development of human civilization, and the ultimate fate of mankind. "Sister, you're right. Kang Teichu might be powerful and talented, but he's short-sighted and ignorant. He's also arrogant and self-opinionated. His knowledge isn't as good as a woman's. How regrettable." Yu Jingtian nodded slightly. He smiled bitterly and sighed regretfully. Fenghua was a good girl. She hit the nail on the head. Kang Teichu was very smart and meticulous. Especially the large-scale public cultivation method, it was even more earth-shattering. Great talent and bold vision. His breadth of mind and magnanimity were enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the ancient paragons. However, he didn't think of the real use of the deity trap array and the confinement of heaven and earth. After all, he was a mortal and knew nothing about the disaster of the ancient times, let alone the terror of the cosmic races. Yu Jingtian continued. In fact, the Qi refinement clans of the Preqin dynasty all have spirit Qi revival seeds and know how to revive spirit Qi. However, for tens of thousands of years, we've been holding back and remaining nameless. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. Their faces turned pale with fright as they exclaimed, "So the Yu family also has a spiritual energy recovery seed?" Yu Jingtian smiled and said calmly, "That's right. Almost every family of the Preqin dynasty has one or a few seeds. If they work together, they'll be able to revive spirit Qi." "Then why don't they revive spirit Qi?" Zhu Shaochen was puzzled and asked boldly. "I heard that the ancient cultivators rested their heads on mountains and carried the moon on their shoulders. With a wave of their hands, they created rivers and moved mountains and seas. They lived for thousands of years and walked the earth like real gods. As long as spirit Qi revives, we'll have a chance to reach that level too, right? Being weak and ignorant is not an obstacle to survival. Arrogance is." Yu Jingtian's face turned serious. He scanned the crowd and said coldly, "If spirit Qi revives, we'll be powerful. We'll even be able to ascend to the heavens and leave Earth for the depths of the universe. But at the same time, it'll also wake up the super civilizations and attack our lovely planet. There are still more than 6 billion creatures on this planet. Are we going to watch them die for our own interests and for the sake of strengthening ourselves?" Everyone looked at Yu Jingtian in a new light. They were full of admiration for him. What kind of noble character and unquestionable integrity was this? What kind of selflessness was this? What kind of bodhisattva was this? Ing Su frowned and asked, "But Kang Teichu said that after spirit Qi revives, we'll be able to resist the invasion of the dimensional world." "You must be Ing Su, right?" The thin young man on the right of Yu Jingtian on the stage spoke. This man was wearing a Taoist robe with 8 trigrams. He held a horsetail whisk and carried a long sword on his back. His face was thin and his temperament was otherworldly. He looked like an ancient scholar who had traveled through time. Ji Mingchuan raised his right hand and pointed at the young man in a Taoist robe on the stage. This is the descendant of Jiang Zia, the first prime minister who helped Ji Chang and Ji Fa establish the great Zhou dynasty. He's the young master of the Jiang family, Jiang Feibai. He's the descendant of Jiang Zia. When everyone heard this, their hearts involuntarily trembled violently, feeling deep veneration. Jiang Zia was one of the most talented and eye-catching figures in the investiture of the Gods' War. Not only was he proficient in military strategy, but he also controlled the investiture of the gods. He had the Holy Whip, the apricot flag, and many other Dharma treasures. His Dharma spells were powerful and invincible. He assisted King Wen of Zhou and King Wu of Zhou to overthrow the Shang dynasty. Later on, his status in the Great Zhou dynasty was even higher than the 3 dukes and 9 uncles. That's right, it's me. Please enlighten me, young Master Jiang. When Ing Su heard this, he did not dare to be negligent. His expression became slightly stern as he solemnly stood up and cupped his fists. Jiang Feibai smiled and said, "Do you know the origin of the ruins of immortality? The ruins of immortality and the dimensional worlds originated from the ancient earth." Everyone was shocked and listened carefully. Back then, the invaders from the outer space were really from the divine-level civilization. Even the ancient grand cultivators were no match for them. They were defeated and helpless. Jiang Feibai nodded and said, "There were also some divine-level civilizations. At that time, there were also differences within the living beings on Earth. They weren't completely united. There were those who surrendered and those who surrendered. They betrayed the ancient Earth and welcomed the arrival of a super civilization. They were just small fries, not worth mentioning. But among the grand cultivators who were descendants of the ancient Earth civilization, there were those who resisted and those who escaped. The resistance was led by Emperor Yu of the Great Xia. In order to protect the human civilization, they defended the Earth and fought bloody battles. In the end, all of them died in battle. The escape was led by Emperor Zhongli of the Shang dynasty. He was the one who broke the ancient Earth apart and pushed it into the depths of the universe. Some of it even reached the southern gate. But fundamentally, Emperor Zhongli and Emperor Yu of the Great Xia were both descendants of the Yellow Emperor. They were connected by blood and fought side by side to protect the roots of the ancient Earth civilization. It's just that they chose different paths. In other words, the ruins of immortality and the dimensional worlds were all friends of the Earth. They came from the same source, the mother planet of life. Jiang Feibai said in a deep voice. However, Jiang Taichu, for his own selfish interests, in order to improve his cultivation, in order to become an immortal or a god, he took the initiative to attack and provoke the various dimensional worlds, repeatedly stirring up a storm of blood and arousing the hostility of the ruins of immortality. If it weren't for Kang Taichu, we could have waited for the time when the spirit qi was more mature and welcomed the descendants of Emperor Shing and the wanderers of the ruins of immortality back. They could have planted the foundation of the Earth with us. We could have worked together and built the Earth into a bright and glorious cultivation planet." He shook his head and sighed with regret. But everything was over when Kang Taichu came. "I see. The ruins of immortality was created by an ancient grand cultivator called Emperor Zhongli. He was a close comrade of the ancestor of the Yu family. The ruins of immortality were our friends. Kang Taichu is completely reckless. He single-handedly brought the Earth to eternal damnation and turned his friends into enemies. He's a scourge. No one knew that the ruins of immortality had changed dramatically and became the world of the Emperor of Immortality. After hearing this, their worldview was refreshed. They had a whole new level of respect for Yu Jingtian, and they despised Jiang Tian. Their wariness towards the experts from the ruins of immortality had also disappeared. Compared to Yu Jingtian, Kang Taichu's level was too low and he couldn't see the big picture. For his own benefit, he caused a lot of bloodshed and broke the peace between the ruins of immortality and Earth. He was pushing the entire human race into a fire pit. Now that he knew that he had angered the ruins of immortality and knew how powerful the ruins of immortality were, he was scared and desperate. He blindly revived the spirit Qi and formed a resistance alliance. He wanted the heroes to sign the alliance contract and fight side by side with him. He kept saying that he was thinking for the future of the Earth and the human civilization. In fact, he was just dragging the entire world down with him. He was despicable and selfish to the extreme. Chapter 12:24. For the peace of Earth and the fate of mankind, the Yu family is willing to let the spirit Qi dry up and degenerate. Yu Fenghua was full of arrogance. Her voice was full of disdain. He's not from a prestigious clan in the Pre-Qin dynasty, nor is he from a Qi practitioner clan, nor is he from a hidden royal family. He's not even a descendant of a noble. He's just a lowly commoner, a nobody in the martial world. He's just a mortal. What right does he have to start a bloody storm? What right does he have to revive the spirit Qi? What right does he have to form a myth alliance? What right does he have to be on an equal footing with us? Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Now Kang Teichu is not only reviving the spirit Qi and causing the world to change, but also forcing many forces to sign contracts and form a myth alliance to fight against the ruins of immortality. Jiang Feibai smiled bitterly. Isn't it obvious that he wants to fight the ruins of immortality to the end? How can the ruins of immortality let Kang Teichu go? How can the world of Earth be peaceful? When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but be filled with righteous indignation. No, we can't let Kang Teichu do as he pleases. After all, he's an ordinary person. He's not a descendant of the Pre-Qin dynasty. He's short-sighted and doesn't understand history. How can the fate of Earth be in his hands? This person is stubborn and self-opinionated. He's cruel and narrow-minded. He's not a virtuous person. He can't be in a high position. He's not qualified to control the myth alliance. He's the one who insisted on reviving the spiritual energy. Did he ask for our opinion before coming here? Everyone was discussing with righteous indignation. Even if he wants to revive the spirit Qi, there must be an explanation as to who will be in charge of the world after the revival of the spirit Qi. But his current goal is clearly to lead the recovery of spiritual power to command the world and dominate the world. At this time, a young man in black on the stage with a gloomy face and cold eyes said with a disdainful smile, "Everyone is right. Kang Teichu is just a mortal from the secular world. His background is lowly, and he is nothing more than a Jianghu bumpkin. What right does he have to command the world? What right does he have to command the various forces and sects of the Pre-Qin dynasty?" His eyes were cold like a peerless heavenly sword that had been unsheathed. His domineering aura was monstrous and sharp. If he wants us to submit to him, he has to have the ability and qualifications to do so. In any case, we in Ruins are the first to disagree with Kang Teichu's way of doing things. If Kang Teichu wants to be the boss, or anyone else wants to be the boss, they'll have to beat me first. This man was Yin Chaoga. He was a descendant of Dxn of the Shang dynasty the descendant of the infamous King Zhou of the Shang dynasty, and the young master of the current Yin family. The entire Yin Ruins was their family's power. Upon hearing these words, a sharp glint flashed across Yu Jingtian's eyes. However, he quickly regained his composure and smiled without saying a word. It was as if he did not hear anything. A strange look appeared on everyone's face, but no one spoke. The Yu family of the Great Xia is naturally the leader of the Pre-Qin Qi cultivation families. Chaoga, you don't have any objections, do you? After a while, another young man spoke. It was Ji Mai, the descendant of Ji Chang of the Great Zhou dynasty, and also Ji Mingchuan's distant cousin. Ji Mai was handsome and had a graceful temperament. He had the bearing of an emperor. His smile was like a needle hidden in silk floss. We're holding this meeting to discuss how to deal with Kang Teichu. If we fight among ourselves, wouldn't it be painful for those close to us and happy for the enemy? Just as the legends say, the Pre-Qin Qi cultivation families are not as united as one piece. Below the stage, Ji Mingchuan lowered his head slightly and a flash of understanding flashed across his eyes. The Ji family and Jiang family of the Great Zhou dynasty supported the Yu family of the Great Xia, but it seemed that the pre-Qin Qi cultivation families of the Shang dynasty were fighting for power. Xianxia sipped his tea and smiled coldly. He did not express his opinion and said with both carrot and stick, "Young Master Yu has no intention of reviving spiritual energy and dominating this planet. There's no need for me to fight with him. Let's kill Kong Teichu first." Killing Kong Teichu is easier said than done. At this moment, below the stage, Yi Hui mustered up her courage and said, "I heard that he's already surpassed the heavenly immortal realm. He's even stronger than the previous leader of our sect, Li Wuji." That's right. Kong Teichu is indeed powerful and talented. However, under the suppression of the immortal trap grade formation, how can he surpass Foundation Establishment Level 3? Xianxia glanced at Yu Hui's ample bosom and a hint of undetectable greed appeared on his face. Then, without waiting for her to speak, he curled his lips in disdain and sneered. "As for the videos they released, we think they're just bluffing with special effects. They're just trying to intimidate us and make us submit to them. Because once he surpasses Foundation Establishment Level 3, the immortal trap grade formation will definitely shake and send down a calamity. However, according to our observation, the immortal trap grade formation has never been touched by any overlords. His combat strength might surpass Foundation Establishment Level 3, but his cultivation level is definitely not higher. Cultivation level is the most important factor that affects combat strength. In comparison, his combat strength is only at the mid-stage of the Foundation Establishment level. With this kind of strength, I can slap him to death with one hand." Hearing this, everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Killing a heavenly immortal with one hand? How powerful was Xianxia? How domineering! Ever since the immortal trap grade formation was set up, no one has surpassed the heavenly immortal realm in the past thousands of years. No one has been able to shake the great formation. No matter how strong Kong Teichu is, can he be stronger than the ancient mighty pre-Qin sage? Beside him, Yu Fenghua and the others also sneered and laughed disdainfully. The reason why Kong Teichu can be so domineering is because we saw him attacking the cultivation world of other countries, the Holy See, and the Brahmin orthodoxies. It's beneficial to the country and the people, so we turned a blind eye and let him do whatever he wants. If we suppress him, anyone on the stage can kill him as easily as killing a chicken. In fact, Yu Jingtian and the others were not stupid. They had asked Li Wuji about Kong Teichu's real background. However, Li Wuji had already supported Jiang Tian wholeheartedly. How could he reveal it? Besides, he also had his own plans in mind. He wanted to use Jiang Tian to suppress the pre-Qin Qi practitioners and make the Kunlun sect the most powerful Qi practitioners in the pre-Qin Qi practitioners. How could the pre-Qin Qi practitioners not rise to the occasion? Therefore, he gave a vague and perfunctory answer before he announced that he was going into closed-door cultivation. As a result, the pre-Qin sects always thought that Jiang Tian's strength was on par with Li Wuji's. "What? How powerful are you exactly?" However, the words of the pre-Qin disciple immediately caused everyone to be extremely shocked. Their expressions changed drastically as they cried out in surprise. Yi Hui puffed out her full chest and looked at Xianxia with admiration. Could it be that young Master Yin's cultivation has surpassed level 3 of Foundation Establishment? So what if he's at the 3rd level of Foundation Establishment? Xianxia was full of arrogance and sneered. The deity trapping array and the confinement of heaven and earth are just a declaration of peace. But which civilization would cut off its roots for peace? Xianxia said proudly, "You're right." When Emperor Sheng left the ancient earth, he gave Emperor Yu a way to break the deity trapping array, and the Yu family also taught it to the pre-Qin Qi practitioners. In other words, Emperor Sheng sees us as the root of the cultivation civilization on earth. We won't be restricted by the confinement of heaven and earth at all. As long as we have enough resources and spirit qi, we can advance at any time. Hearing this, everyone was shocked again. They couldn't believe it. Have all of you reached the mid-stage, late stage, or even the golden core level? Everyone exclaimed like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Their eyes were full of admiration and envy. If spirit qi is really restored, our cultivation can be even higher. Xianxia acted mysteriously and did not comment. Instead, he smiled proudly and said, "We're already limited by the lack of spirit qi. Otherwise, the nascent soul level, soul formation level, Tao reunion level and void return level are just around the corner." The reason why it was called the Age of Doom was because of the planet destruction and the deity trapping array. On the earth, spirit qi was withered and dried up. Without the nourishment of spirit qi and spirit qi, cultivators were like trees without roots and water without a source. Every breakthrough was extremely difficult. The deity trapping array imprisoned and monitored thousands of miles in the deep void. Once a cultivator reached the third level of the foundation establishment level, the network would send a disaster to destroy their cultivation or kill them. The Qi refinement cultivators of the Pre-Qin dynasty were connected to the ancient mythological era. Yu the Great was a transitional figure between the ancient mythological era and the Pre-Qin dynasty. He had connections with the Shang Emperor, Zhongli, and the ancient mighty figures even before that. He obtained the method to break the heaven and earth confinement, so that the Qi refinement cultivators of the Pre-Qin dynasty wouldn't be restricted by the deity trapping array. However, they couldn't stop the depletion of spirit qi. They were also limited. Then, everyone started to speak about the current situation. Jiang Feibai spoke unceasingly and endlessly, giving pointers about everything. Ji Mai occasionally said something, but he was always right. Xianxia's perspective was often more realistic. It was very practical and straightforward. Most of the time, Yu Jingtian didn't say anything. He just listened with a smile. But when he spoke, he was always on point. His insight and vision were far better than everyone else. At this time, the reclusive royalty below the stage, except for Ying Su, had been completely convinced. It was as if they had seen their idol. In the end, Yu Jingtian's eyes were cold and he made the final decision. Kong Teichu is ambitious. He revived spirit qi and formed the mythological alliance. He obviously wants to be alone and dominate this blue planet. I don't agree with this. This man is mean, ruthless, and fierce. He killed the innocent and set off a bloody storm. He's really the jinx of Earth. We can support whoever becomes the leader, but not Kong Teichu. He dared to send a message and threaten me. Many forces in the secular world also listened to him. It seems that the Qi refinement cultivators of the Pre-Qin dynasty have been too low-key. So much so that the world has forgotten about our existence. He was like a majestic emperor. He glanced at everyone and made the final decision. Fine, it's time for us to do something. Now, I'll announce to the world that the Qi refinement cultivators of the Pre-Qin dynasty will come out of seclusion and stop Kong Teichu from reviving spirit Qi. If he doesn't stop his actions, we can only wipe him and the Tianqing school off the face of the earth. Let's vote. Who agrees and who disagrees? Chapter 12:25. Me too. Yu Fenghua nodded. Me too. Ji Mai agreed. Me too. Xianxia nodded. For a time, many disciples of the Pre-Qin dynasty raised their hands in support. Their attitude was unprecedentedly unanimous. They agreed that the Pre-Qin clans should suppress Jiang Tian and Tianqing school, stop the revival of spirit qi, and resist the myth alliance. But we have to settle our internal problems first. Let's start with Wuxia. Yu Jingtian said, "We'll give Jiang Taichu 3 days to remove all the spirit-guiding formations from the famous mountains and rivers of Wuxia. If he refuses, we'll brutally suppress him. We'll kill every one of Jiang Taichu's men we see. We'll stop until Kong Teichu admits defeat." Hearing this, everyone was shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. No matter how powerful Kong Teichu was, how could he compare to the Pre-Qin clans? How could they withstand the siege of these behemoths? These clans were only second to the ancient deities and grand cultivators. They had the purest Qi refinement arts and were not affected by the deity entrapment array. They also had endless resources. The 9 cauldrons, the deity whipping whip, the deity restraining rope, and many other powerful dharma treasures. Poor Kong Teichu. Hearing this, Yu Fenghua lowered her head and sighed mockingly. That was Yu Jingtian's dominance. In everyone's eyes, Yu Jingtian had the pre-Qin and primordial treasures and could compete with the entire ruins of immortality. Yu Jingtian's words had the power to turn the world upside down. Many of the pre-Qin family clans, hidden monsters, and demons all obeyed his command. Once he showed up, not only Kong Teichu, but also all the superpowers on this planet would not be able to stop him. The next morning, the Pre-Qin Research Institute immediately posted a declaration of war on their official website, strongly opposing Kong Teichu's revival of spirit qi. They also launched a global poll. They refuted Jiang Tian's proposal for the revival of spiritual aura one by one and deciphered the truth of the ruins of immortality and the world cage. They claimed that Jiang Tian's actions were completely for his own personal gain, and that he would plunge Earth into an irrecoverable situation. This was equivalent to an official announcement. Soon, this news was spread on various dimensional world forums and cultivator forums. Suddenly, like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples, it set off a huge uproar all over the world. Important people from the secular world and the cultivation world all spoke about this incident. However, with the release of this information and the fanning of many forces, a portion of the public began to stand on the side of the famous pre-Qin Qi practitioners. Kong Teichu is indeed too brutal. He slaughtered people all over the world and even started a local war to make a fortune. I don't think he's qualified to be the chairman of the Mythological Alliance. One philanthropist claimed in an interview. It turns out that the spirit qi revival will not only give birth to many dire beasts, but it will also tear up Earth's declaration of peace to the universe. I firmly oppose the spirit qi revival. An internet celebrity finished playing a game in an internet cafe, took out her mobile phone, and posted on Weibo to criticize Jiang Tian. She even incited all netizens to oppose the spirit qi revival. As long as 300,000 netizens signed, she would take off her clothes live. The cute girl who had been slapped in the face by Jiang Tian during the live broadcast ceremony had changed her appearance and made a comeback. Kong Teichu, surrender. The fate of mankind can't be in your hands. You're just an ordinary person. You're no match for the pre-Qin heroes at all. The internet celebrity Wan also spoke on the internet, encouraging fans to oppose Jiang Tian. I think the famous pre-Qin clans are too naive. In the face of all kinds of comments, Zhao Xueqing publicly shouted in an interview with BBC with her big belly. Our martyrs once said that if we seek unity through struggle, we will survive as a team. If we seek unity through compromise, we will perish as a team. Earth is weak. If we give up the spirit qi revival, it's like a soldier giving up his gun and losing without a fight. However, the enemy has a gun in his hand. Whether he kills you or not depends entirely on his mood. How can humans not become stronger just to avoid being beaten? How can they remain weak and become lambs waiting to be slaughtered? In fact, only when you are strong can you avoid being beaten. This is the incantation passed down by our ancestors, the Iron Law. Kong Teichu must withdraw and destroy all the spirit qi revival arrays and hand over the spirit qi revival seeds. Otherwise, we will kill him without mercy. The safety of this blue planet can't be in the hands of a war maniac who kills and steals at every turn. Again, we'll only give you 3 days. After 3 days, the war will break out. The famous pre-Qin clans will brazenly take action and wipe out Tianqing school. Led by Yu Jingtian, a descendant of the great Xia dynasty, the famous pre-Qin clans held a press conference and shouted at Jiang Tian through hundreds of media outlets around the world. After that, the famous Inshang clan, the Ji clan, and the Jiang clan of Dezhou all expressed their support for Yu Jingtian and declared war on Kong Teichu and Tianqing school. Their words were strong and their attitudes were domineering. Moreover, the list of people participating in the war was still increasing. Many pre-Qin Qi refinement clans, demons, ghosts, and heretical cultivators joined the war to support Yu Jingtian and the Pre-Qin Research Institute. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. Tianqing School had released the documentary. The strength of Jiang Tian and Tianqing School was obvious to everyone. Who else could challenge them? The Preaching Research Institute also began to release information about them. As a deterrent, they released information about the ruins of immortality to seek the support of the secular world. Suddenly, countless people were shocked. It turned out that the ancient mythological era was not as simple as a myth and legend. It really existed. It turned out that the war of investiture of the gods in the Preaching dynasty really happened. It turned out that before the advent of modern technology, mankind was a completely different civilization. It was a brilliant cultivation planet. Chongbai Mountain, near Yongling. The mountains were continuous and green. The top of one of the mountains was bare as if it had been flattened by a peerless heavenly sword. On the top of the mountain, there was a lake with a radius of 10 miles, which made people exclaim in admiration. This was the famous Dragon Lake. Yongling was known as the Dragon Vein of the Qing dynasty. The Dragon Lake was said to be the eye of Yongling's feng shui. Many mountains in Yongling gathered in the Dragon Lake, and the Dragon Lake was the dragon pearl protected by the Dragon Vein. It was said that this place was connected to the East Sea Dragon Palace, and there was a true dragon in it. It was this true dragon that helped Huang Taiji defeat the Ming dynasty and establish the Qing dynasty. In recent years, there were even people who took pictures of huge flood dragons swimming under the water, which spread like wildfire. Some people believed it to be true, but most people just treated it as fake news that was commonly seen on the internet and did not say a word. Around the Dragon Lake, there was a birch forest. The clear water reflected the blue sky and white clouds. The mountain breeze was cool, and it became a good place to relax. The beginning of summer had arrived. Tourists were weaving together to enjoy the scenery and avoid the heat. On this day, among the tourists, a tall and handsome middle-aged man suddenly jumped down from the cliff into the lake. Is he going to commit suicide? Someone in the crowd exclaimed. Quick, take a picture. If we post it on Weibo, it will definitely be a hot topic. Someone took out his phone and started to take pictures. Unexpectedly, when the middle-aged man was 100 meters above the water, he floated there as if there were invisible stairs under his feet. A martial artist. A mutant. Countless tourists by the lake widened their eyes. They were shocked and excited. Some took pictures, videos, and some even started a live broadcast. Since the invasion of West Earth, the existence of martial artists, cultivators, mutants, and alien races was no longer a secret. Many forums appeared on the internet. Many people found that the world they lived in was so exciting for the first time. Ignoring the shocked eyes around him, Zhao Yuankuan cupped his fists and shouted, Zhao Yuankuan, the first-generation disciple of Kong Teichu, the sect master of Tianqing School, is here to see the Demon King of the Dragon Lake for the sake of the recovery of spirit qi. Not even Kong Teichu is qualified to be on the same level as the Demon King. You're just his disciple. How dare you want to see my master? Then, a man rose from the lake, but there was no trace of water on him. Apparently, he was protected by a righteous qi. The middle-aged man was wearing a long robe and carrying a golden dragon blade on his back. He was also an earth-level deity and was not much weaker than Zhao Yuankuan. He said coldly, I'm Zhang Tinya, the disciple of the Demon King. My master is in seclusion and can't come out. If you have something to say, just tell me and I'll report it to him. He was trying to intimidate him. He didn't even want to see him. How arrogant! Zhao Yuankuan's eyes were cold and murderous, but he couldn't help but remember what Jiang Tian said before the disciples set off. Only when these forces are more arrogant, domineering, and exposed will we have more reasons to quell the chaos. People's hearts are more beneficial to us. This is to lure the enemy in. Before we take action, we will show weakness in battle and take the offensive in public opinion. Therefore, Zhao Yuankuan calmed down, hid his murderous intent, and cupped his fists respectfully. He said respectfully, My master, Kong Teichu, and Tianqing School want to join forces with the Demon King to recover spirit qi and protect the creatures on Earth. We respectfully invite the Demon King of the Dragon Lake to join the Myth Alliance and sign an agreement to resist the ruins of immortality and protect the civilization on Earth. Seeing Zhao Yuankuan so respectful, Zhang Tianya became even more arrogant and domineering. He sneered and said, "The recovery of spirit chi has nothing to do with us demons. If you want to recover spirit chi, go ahead. If you don't do it. We demons are free and don't interfere with the human race. Why should we listen to Kong Teichu and Tianqing School? Who does Kong Teichu think he is? How dare he order the true dragons around? The Demon King was a dragon, but that didn't stop him from raising his status. I'm afraid your master has to sign this agreement. This is for the sake of the overall situation of the civilization on Earth. If he doesn't sign it, I'm afraid it will cause some unnecessary misunderstandings." Zhao Yuankuan said with a hidden agenda. "Get out of my way." Zhang Tianya was furious and threw a punch at Zhao Yuankuan. Zhao Yuankuan flew dozens of meters away, as if he had been hit by the wind. Seeing this, Zhang Tianya was even more smug. He stood with his hands on his hips and said arrogantly, "In 3 days, ask Kong Teichu to apologize in front of our Demon King and give up the position of the leader of the Myth Alliance. Otherwise," he smiled maliciously. "Otherwise what?" Zhao Yuankuan asked. "Otherwise? My bewitching demon clan will definitely come out of the mountains. First, we will kill 1,000,000 people as sacrifices to our flag. Then, we will kill Jiang Taichu to establish our might. I'll let you know how powerful I am." All of a sudden, the water in the pool trembled, setting off towering white waves. A loud dragon's roar came from the dragon's cave deep underground. Chapter 12:26. His voice was like rolling thunder, shaking everyone's hearts and spreading for 100 miles. The mountains shook and the earth trembled. Everyone felt a sharp pain in their eardrums and their hearts were about to explode. They couldn't even stand still. Who does Kong Teichu think he is? He hasn't even triggered the deity trap array and gone through the deity trap tribulation. How dare he order me around? He's courting death. It was the flood dragon spirit in the dragon pond of Changbai Mountain that was said to have a lifespan of 2,000 years and was known as the Demon Emperor. Everyone was in an uproar after hearing what he said. This evil man is so fierce. He wants to kill 100,000 people in one breath. That's terrifying. We should use nuclear weapons to blow these evil men into ashes. Many people trembled and were angry. Those who aren't of our kind must have a different mind. Zhao Yuankuan knew he had achieved his goal, so he rose into the air and said, "I'll give you 3 days to think about it. If you don't, the Tianqing School will wash your dragon lake with blood and skin you alive." "Ha, how dare you talk nonsense? In fact, you're just a clown. You can't withstand a single blow." Zhang Tianya sneered with disdain in his eyes. Almost at the same time, in the cloudy land of Mount Qingqing, a giant white python 100 feet long rose into the air, which shocked many tourists and explorers. She turned into a woman in a palace dress. Her clothes were fluttering in the wind, and she looked peerless. She spoke human language and called herself by Sujuan, the willow deity. Many witnesses exclaimed and speculated that this woman might be the prototype of Baisuzhen in the legend of the white snake. The snake demon stood in the air and looked down at the people under the crowd and many cameras. She looked at the people and said in a sweet voice, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry." She said with a charming voice, "The demons and humans don't interfere with each other. If Kong Teichu insists, the White Snake Cave of Mount Qingqing can order all the snakes and pythons in the world to attack the city. There are countless of them. Can Kong Teichu deal with them?" When these words were spoken, everyone felt their scalps go numb. This would become a great disaster that would be difficult to deal with. Even if it were ordinary poisonous snakes, there would be thousands upon thousands of them. If they appeared in a densely populated area, how serious would the casualties be? At the same time, in Sunset Mountain, Bai Xian, a hedgehog spirit, appeared and protested to Jiang Tian. In Xingyan Ridge, immortal yellow skin also came out of seclusion in the form of an old man, claiming that he wanted to fight Jiang Tian to the end. Mang Mountain. The sun shone brightly. However, within the dense forest, there were gusts of chilly wind. Ghostly chi filled the air, and countless green phosphorescent flames floated about. It made one's hair stand on end, and it was extremely terrifying. The deeper they went into the forest, the denser it became. Vines grew everywhere, and thistles and thorns covered the ground. One could faintly see a mound in front of them, and a dense yin qi lingered in the air. I am the disciple of the Taichu sect's master, the Hall Master of Soul Hall, Hongyi. I am here to meet the legendary ghost King Mang. Taoist Master Redleaf held the feng shui compass in his hand. Behind him was a female reporter from the BBC. She carried a camera and started a live broadcast. Crack! A few bones were crushed under his feet. Only then did adept Redleaf see a small mound that had been dug up. Beside the mound were many pieces of decaying wood, rotten iron shovels, white skeletons, and the bones of many birds and beasts. Among them were scattered many. At the bottom of the mound, there was a big black hole that led straight to the ground. Weeds and trees grew around it. Looking at the scene, not only was the tomb ancient, but the tomb robbers were also ancient. Taoist Master Redleaf murmured, "What a strong yin qi. This should be where the Ghost King is." Some white bones were buried deep in the ground, and the exposed parts were rotten. They looked like they had been there for a long time, which made them even more terrifying. Taoist Master Redleaf was one of the top spellcasters in Singapore. He liked to collect artifacts and knew many gravediggers. However, this small mound was not eye-catching, but it was a forbidden area for many gravediggers. It was extremely ferocious, and there were huge dumplings there. It was said that since the Ming dynasty, there were at least 100 tomb robbers, mountain-moving Taoists, and Xialing warriors who died here. None of them returned alive. After a long time, no one dared to come here anymore. On the other hand, the BBC reporter who had been paying attention to the recovery of spiritual qi was fearless. She came here for an exclusive report. However, Taoist Master Redleaf was skilled and bold. He was not afraid of this. He lit a pot of incense and used the 18 ghost controlling techniques that Jiang Tian had taught him. He made hand seals and chanted to summon ghosts. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a reporter from the BBC. Today, I've come to the mysterious Mount Mang in Huaxia with the experts of Tianqing School. It's rumored that ghosts roam this place. Today, we'll unveil the mystery," the female reporter said excitedly to the camera. A moment later, boom, there was a loud noise. The ground trembled as if an earth dragon was rolling. The entrance of the cave split open into a huge gully that expanded several times. The female reporter was so scared that she rolled on the ground. The camera shook violently. A chilly wind whistled in the gully, and a ghastly yin qi swept across like a raging wave. Then, the ghostly whispers came like a tide, and the wisps surged. A loud roar was heard, as if a gong was sounding. "Who's making noise outside the Ghost King's mansion? Oh my God! Ghosts come out in broad daylight." The female reporter was shocked when she saw the scene at the entrance of the cave. She was so scared that she almost fainted. A tall and burly man walked out of the chilly wind and fog. He was at least 3 meters tall, and he was wearing a golden python robe. The man wore a crown on his head, a jade belt around his waist, and a purple python robe. He had a green face and fangs. His hair was disheveled, and his whole body was covered in green scales. He looked like a human-shaped monster made of the wisps. Countless the wisps of the wisps surrounded him. A few armored ghost generals were clearing the way for him. However, their bodies were slightly smaller, and their flame scales were not as dense. They looked a little illusory. Sure enough, this old bastardly Wuji. I don't know if he made a mistake or deliberately tricked us. We've underestimated this old ghost. Taoist Master Redleaf frowned and thought. The wisps only had instinctive consciousness. Ghosts were extremely powerful and had recovered the consciousness and memories of their previous lives. They were divided into ghost soldiers, ghost generals, ghost kings, and so on. Ghost kings usually had a physical body. They could not only attack with divine soul spells and create illusions, but they could also attack with force. But even ghost kings were not free bodies. They were still afraid of sunlight and couldn't move in the daytime. However, this fierce ghost was not afraid of sunlight at all. He could come and go as he pleased. He could even protect his followers with his Dharma power. He was at least at the level of a Ghost King. "Little bug, why are you looking for me?" Ghost King Mang Mountain asked arrogantly. "Ghost King, the spirit chi of Tianqing School has recovered." Adept Redleaf cupped his fists as he spoke, using both emotion and reason. I used to be Lu Shang, the king of Hejian. I've lived for more than 2,000 years. Who does Kong Teichu think he is? How dare he ask me to submit to his alliance? Listen to his orders." But Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain snickered and looked at him with disdain, saying, "I'm not convinced even if he's from the Qin dynasty, let alone a kid like him. I can join the Myth Alliance if he wants. Give up the position of the leader, kowtow to me and lick my toes." Ghost King? Taoist Master Redleaf still wanted to persuade him. "The sky corpses and ghost cultivators have nothing to do with you. Did Kong Teichu ask for my permission? How dare he call himself the most powerful person in the world and ask me to join the alliance? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue?" Ghost King Mang Mountain roared. "If you dare to throw tantrums again, I'll bathe your heavenly clear sect in blood. Then, I'll create a ghost emperor, and 10,000 ghosts will come to pay homage. I'll turn this colorful world and bright universe into hell on earth." This scene was transmitted to the screen through the reporter's camera and in front of everyone's eyes. Before the spirit chi recovers, we must suppress these terrifying forces. "It's too scary." For a moment, countless people were exclaiming, "If Kong Teichu is not convinced, come and fight with me. I'll tear this kid to pieces." Ghost King Mang Mountain roared and turned into a ball of green light. He shrank back into the tomb and disappeared. Facing the provocation of many forces, there was a lot of discussion. "My husband is in seclusion and I'm pregnant. I can't go out." However, Tianqing School's reputation is earned through fighting and killing. The reputation of being the #1 orthodoxy on earth is not for nothing. We will definitely recover the spirit chi. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Zhao Xueqing was interviewed again in Sidoni's main training hall of Tianqing School. She shouted across the air tit for tat and refused to back down. "We'll give you one last chance to reconsider. The war will break out in 3 days. Your Tianqing sect can be called the #1 orthodoxy only because we pre-Qin Chi refinement clans went into seclusion and were unwilling to bother with you, allowing clowns like you to jump around. Otherwise, you would have been wiped out long ago. This time, it was you Fenghua who appeared on camera and accepted the interview." Her eyes were full of contempt, as if Jiang Tian and Tianqing School were just ants. They also attached many videos of the pre-Qin dynasty. Some people flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground. Some people shook mountains with their hands. Some people destroyed tanks with their bare hands. Some people controlled substances. For a time, public opinion was in an uproar. This time, Jiang Tian and the pre-Qin dynasty released a large amount of information. The Demon Clan and the Ghost Clan had appeared in the world. Only then did the people realize. They were actually in a world where experts were as numerous as the clouds. It was a wonderful world. It turned out that under the normal mortal world, there was an even more mysterious world of cultivation hidden. It was a world full of special abilities, violence, and slaughter. There were so many powerful experts, and there were so many of them secretly controlling the trajectory and fate of the surface world. In fact, they did not wait until the 3rd day. The next day, the Dragon Lake of Whitehead Mountain and the Ghost Clan of Mount Mang took practical action. The roar shook the mountains and rivers. In a bustling hot pot restaurant in the mountain town of Qingzhong, a zombie with wings suddenly flew into the restaurant. This zombie was 3 meters tall and as strong as a mountain. It waved its iron hook-like hands and killed anyone it saw. The crowd fled in fear. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of people died. The police rushed over and shot the zombie with pistols, but they could not hurt it at all. "I'm the flying yaksha under the ghost emperor of Mount Mang. I'm warning Kong Teichu with the blood of the dead. Take the position of chairman of the Myth Alliance in 3 days. Otherwise, I'll come out again." He lifted the roadblock, flattened the explosion-proof car with 1 foot, and tore the police into pieces. He roared unscrupulously. Chapter 1227. It was a flying yaksha, which was even more powerful than the zombie kings and yakshas. It was only slightly weaker than the heavenly corpses. He was able to break through the defense line and retreat when faced with the bullets of the explosion-proof vehicles and submachine guns. This scene was captured by the reporters and the public. The horrifying and chaotic scenes were spread to every corner of the world through the media and self-media. It made people's hair stand. Then at 7 o'clock that night, the sirens also made a move. In a small town in Guangxi, hundreds of poisonous snakes, foxes and gerfalcons suddenly attacked a restaurant and killed dozens of people. Although no one announced that they were responsible for this incident, everyone knew that this was definitely the work of the bewitching demon clan. Kong Teichu, come out? Didn't you say that you were able to deal with them? Some citizens shouted loudly when they were being interviewed by the media. Indeed. Jiang Taichu said that there is no problem with the evolution of demonic beasts. However, the world hasn't changed yet, and so many people have already died. Can he take responsibility for this? A family member of the injured said with tears in his eyes. Meanwhile, the Tianqing school announced that the dojos in Wuxia would send out a special force to kill the flying yakshas and the sirens. But as soon as they found the target, the flying yaksha escaped as if it had disappeared from the world. The next day, the flying yakshas and the demonic spirits caused a few more incidents of demon beasts and ghost cultivators attacking the public safety of the downtown area, causing even greater waves. This time, the Wuxia Defenders Alliance arrived just in time. Ing Su led the team and besieged the flying yaksha. However, the people from the preaching sects also arrived and joined the battle. In the end, it was Yin Chaoga and the others from the famous preaching sects that successfully subdued the flying yaksha and a few other ghostly cultivators. Then they turned to battle again. Within a day, they killed another fox spirit that had yet to successfully transform but was still very powerful. They were watching my live stream, so they turned on the live stream and let the netizens around the world see them. They flew in the sky with their Dharma treasures and broke the sound barrier. They were even faster than fighter jets. The power of their Dharma treasures was as shocking as nuclear explosions. The Preaching dynasty is subduing monsters. So cool. Everyone was in an uproar. No one had expected the Preaching clan to be so up-to-date with the times and even broadcast live. Instantly, hundreds of millions of people gathered in the live broadcast room. Many people put down their work and sat in front of the TV, computer, or mobile phone to watch the live broadcast. Moreover, after suppressing the mastermind behind the scenes, the famous preaching sects also quickly reached an agreement with the Dragon Pool Demon Emperor, the ghost cultivators of Mount Mang, and other forces. The latter expressed his deep apologies for the previous violent incident. They were just trying to teach Kong Teichu a lesson. Since the famous preaching sect had spoken, they had to give face. From today onwards, the two forces of demonic spirits and ghost cultivators would no longer disturb the secular world. Kong Teichu claimed that he could deal with the great changes in the world caused by the recovery of spirit qi, but what about now? In the Look at Ming livestream, Yu Fenghua appeared once again with a mocking expression. Spiritual qi hasn't started to recover yet, so the demon beasts and ghost cultivators are very weak. But he hid in his cave and didn't dare to come out like a turtle. In the end, it was us, the famous preaching sects, who turned the tide. The recovery of spiritual power must not be allowed. Have you seen how terrifying the demon beasts and evil spirits are? Kong Teichu is just messing around. Cutie Lee, an online celebrity, shouted in the live stream. Obviously, Kong Teichu doesn't have the ability to deal with the crisis. Only the famous preaching sects are the strongest. Only then can we suppress the heretics and stabilize Wuxia. After all, the preaching is the origin of Wuxia civilization, and the qi refinement cultivators of the preaching sect are the orthodox. Kong Teichu can't do it at all. A popular celebrity said so in an interview. This Weibo post was forwarded by 100,000 people in an instant. In fact, The famous preaching sects were also supported by a large number of political and business forces. Although their financial resources were not as good as Jiang Tian's, they were not to be underestimated. They spent hundreds of millions to buy internet water army to guide the direction of public opinion. Although people like Cutie Li hated Jiang Tian, they were mostly paid to do so. Down with the dictator Kong Techu and stop the recovery of spirit qi. Earth needs peace and stability. Mankind doesn't want a third world war. It was to the extent where there were quite a few people harboring evil intentions who came to Jiang Tian, gathering in front of the various bronze statues, demonstrating. They shouted slogans, splashed ink, feces and urine on the bronze statues, burned Jiang Tian's photos, Sidoni's national flag and tried to destroy Jiang Tian's bronze statues. Isn't Kong Techu a hero? Why do people hate him so much? Seeing the picture on the news, Iris's daughter asked with tears in her eyes. She had been idolizing Jiang Tian for the past few days, but in the blink of an eye, her idol was ruthlessly shattered. The little girl couldn't accept it. In the meantime, Ying Su and Ji Mingchuan had a fierce quarrel at the Guardians of Huaxia's base. Mingchuan, we clearly had the ability to kill that flying yiksha. Why did you stop me? Did you want the famous preaching sects to show off? Ying Su asked anxiously with a pale face. Currently, they were the leaders of the Huaxia Defenders Alliance, and Ji Mingchuan was the vice leader. However, everyone in the alliance knew that he was just a puppet, a marionette, and the real leader was Ji Mingchuan. Such a quarrel was extremely rare. Next to them, Zhu Shaoqun and the others looked over. Ying Su, you have to consider the big picture. Ji Mingchuan said coldly. But do you know how many innocent people will be killed if the flying yiksha escapes? Ying Su shouted. They won't escape. Ji Mingchuan said with a sinister smile. What do you mean? Ying Su was stunned and suddenly understood. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart and his face turned pale. He lowered his head and laughed. Everything is just a trap. I was wondering why you knew where the flying yiksha was hiding in the first place. I was wondering why Tianqing School and our search lines would be broken through by the yiksha again and again. He raised his head and shouted, this is a trap set up by the famous preaching sects, Longqi and Mang Mountain. One played the good cop, the other played the bad cop. The yiksha and ghostly cultivators did evil and let the famous preaching sects kill them to establish supreme authority and make contributions, suppressing Kong Techu. No, they didn't even kill them. They secretly let them go. Everything is for the control of the mythic alliance. But answer me, aren't the lives of those dead lives? Ji Mingchuan didn't deny it. He patted Ying Su's shoulder and smiled. We did this to stop more bloodshed and sacrifice. It's also for the preaching sect's hegemony. What are a few hundred lives? They're just ants and dust. Don't be soft-hearted and think about the big picture. To hell with the big picture. A bunch of despicable and shameless people. I quit. Ying Su threw the chief token of Huaxia's Defenders League on the ground and cursed. Ying Su, how dare you talk to me with such an attitude? Ji Mingchuan was furious. You've forgotten who gave you this position. Who gave you the glory and wealth you have today? Who drove Yi Zhantian away? Look at how badly you were bullied by Kong Techu back then. No matter how fierce and domineering Kong Techu is, at least he won't be so despicable and shameless. I'm ashamed to be associated with you. Ying Su left without looking back. Kill him. We must kill him. Ji Mingchuan, Zhu Shaoqun, Yi, Li Guangkou and the others looked at each other and suddenly attacked Ying Su together. Half an hour later, Ying Su, who was covered in wounds and bleeding profusely, staggered out of the base of the Defender Alliance. Behind him were several hundred soldiers. Ancestor, I'm being hunted now because... No, it's useless. If I say anything now, I'll be flooded with messages from the preaching sections. I'll even be hunted down by the preaching sects. No, I don't trust anyone now. I have to go to Tianqing School. I only trust Kong Techu now. Take care. He leaped between the cities and made a quick escape. At the same time, he called Ying Laozu and explained everything. His murderous eyes were filled with determination. But under the influence of the preaching sections, the support rate for Jiang Tian and Tianqing School was getting lower and lower. On the third day, there were only a few 100 million people supporting them. However, the preaching sects had reached a few billion people. They had an overwhelming advantage. At this moment, Yu Jingtian appeared on camera for the first time. He spoke on the live broadcast of "Look at me. Kong Teichu, the people are on my side now. Are you going to stubbornly resist until the end? The 3 days are almost up. If you don't remove the spirit channeling formation, spirit creation well, and hand over the spiritual qi recovery seed, I will not hesitate to attack your dojo. I'm looking forward to your response." This time, the people were in an uproar. Yu Jingtian was originally very handsome. In order to gain the favor of the people, he even hired a stylist to make him look like a domineering CEO. He even performed a lot of flying skills like Superman and immediately won a large number of fans. Wow, he's so cool. He's the descendant of Yu the Great. Yu the Great controlled the flood and built the Great Xia dynasty. How can Kong Teichu compare to him? That's right. Kong Teichu is just an ordinary person. He's not as glorious as Yu the Great. One is in the sky while the other is on the ground. Many fangirls firmly supported Yu Jingtian and the preaching sections. After all, Jiang Tian had killed so many people that blood flowed like a river. He was too violent, unlike Yu Jingtian, who was gentle and refined. In order to increase the participation and entertainment of this battle, we've opened a bet. You can vote and send gifts. If you guess correctly, the gift from the wrong party will be divided according to the share. Watch me, Yu Fenghua reminded with a smile in the live broadcast room. Her every move, every frown, and every smile was full of charm. She was extremely moving and had conquered countless otakus. She was quickly promoted to a goddess. After a few hours, there was still no response from Tianqing School. Yu Jingtian appeared in the live broadcast room again and said something shocking. "Don't say I didn't warn you. I've already warned you. At 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll wipe out Shenong School's dojo and kill your disciples to force Kong Teichu to come out. I'll continue the live broadcast after that." As soon as he said that, in the live broadcast room, tens of millions of viewers were boiling with excitement. It's time for real. Let's go. It's so exciting to be able to witness the battle between Kong Teichu and Yu Jingtian. Oh my god. I can't believe I can witness the battle between the preaching qi practitioners and Kong Teichu. It's worth it even if I die. Yeah, it's so exciting. No one will miss it. For a moment, all the planes and high-speed trains to Shenong School in Hubei province were full. Even the highways and national highways were blocked. Countless people rushed to the back of Mount Amei. After all, even though there was a live broadcast and VR technology, it was not as good as watching the battle in person. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.